That thing called life. Proud to be here with you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Can't thank you enough for hanging out with us every single Monday through Friday on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, as well as on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. So however you're tuned into the show, we thank you so much. We appreciate you for being here with us where sports meets life. We have our typical Thursday, and when I say typical Thursday, I'm talking about Papa Joe, PJ, the Goso, the grand old smooth one, the Italian stallion. We have PJ here this morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You know PJ for being with us every single Thursday. I have the exclusive rights to him, and unlike the Green Bay Packers, he actually signed on with me, so that's a good thing. And, well, I should say unlike the New York Jets, since he hasn't signed that yet. If he will sign that, we shall see. But Papa Joe here with me this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We've had him from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 9 to 11. Today, he's from 9 to 10, and he'll be with us in hour number 1 to discuss a bunch of different topics, including Major League Baseball thus far this season. And we will also be getting into the rule changes. What do they look like? More stolen bases have been happening right now, so what are his thoughts on the way that things are? What are his thoughts on the shift being gone? And I know that he was not really too much of a fan of where things were heading. Let's see what he thinks about where we are right now. So we'll discuss the rule changes in different pieces of Major League Baseball. We'll also get into those standings and rankings and where he thinks everybody's at. And then we'll jump into our conversation on the Jacksonville Jaguars, because the next time PJ and I talk will be on draft day, which is on Thursday, April 27th, exactly a week from today. PJ and I will be talking on draft day about those Jaguars and about the draft in general. So excited to have you on for this conversation to talk about so many different things in the sports world. We're also going to be getting into the NFL's quarterback signings, Lamar Jackson, and what's going on with him, the QB market after Jalen Hurts makes a 5-year, $255 million deal worth over $170 million guaranteed, which makes it the second highest guaranteed contract next to the fully guaranteed contract that Deshaun Watson signed just a little while ago. So we'll be discussing all that with Papa Joe in hour number 1. And in hour number 2, around 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, I'll be welcoming Chris Heidel to the broadcast of HerbFM Sports Radio. The host will be joining me to speak on name, image, and likeness, as well as the transfer portal and what it is doing to collegiate athletics. We'll also get into his thoughts on the quarterback signings, and with him being in Baltimore, what his thoughts are about Lamar Jackson and what the quarterback market looks like now that we are seeing that ballooned contract for Jalen Hurts. So a lot of great stuff coming up on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, starting off with Papa Joe. So we bring him into the broadcast. Like I said, the grand old smooth one, PJ, Papa Joe. On top of that, the Italian stallion, and unlike Aaron Rodgers, he signs on and keeps his word. What about that? PJ, how we doing?
That's true. Blood is better than a pen. You and Joey are the Italian stallions. I'm just a beat-up old guy. That's all I am.
No, you're not a beat-up old guy, PJ. Not at all. Not by a little bit. And you've been doing better health-wise. And Joey and I were talking last night. Things have been maybe feeling a little bit better. So how's everything?
I'm walking much better. I'm doing a lot of things. I'm doing errands. I'm going to the store for Mary, doing stuff, working on my cars. I just finished washing and detailing the 4 cars here. And I'm very pleased with the way I'm moving around. I mean, I just hope it lasts. That's all.
Well, we definitely hope that it does, and I'm sure that it will, because God is good, and so we keep praying on that and hoping on that. But happy to hear that you're feeling better and doing better, because that's ever important to all of us that love you so very much. And not just MT, Joey, and I, but there's a what do they call it? I know there's different words for a lot of people. A gaggle of people. I think that's a lot of people too. So there's a lot of people around the world that know you here on the show and appreciate you and always wishing you well and love having you here on the broadcast. So I'm happy to hear that you're doing better. I'm also happy to say that next week when we talk on draft day, right after that, a few days after that, I'll be finally seeing you, and it's been a minute.
That's going to be fun. I'm glad you're coming down because you and Joe will have a lot of fun where you're going, and we'll have a lot of fun here with my family. Pool will be open, jumping in it, raising hell, cooking, eating, a lot of fun.
Yeah, because we're looking at Syracuse. Yesterday was 41. Today's going to be in the 60s. Tomorrow's going to be in the 80s. So it's going to jump by 20 degrees from day to day to day, and then it's going to fall back again, go back to the 60s, back to the 50s, back to the 40s. So this weather's been very interesting. I'm happy that I have allergy medication. It seems to be working. God bless, and hopefully it continues to be, because I'm excited to be able to jump into a pool. Up here in Syracuse, you jump into the pool on Monday, and then you're ice skating on top of the pool on Tuesday. So with that being said, PJ, let's jump into baseball. I want to go to the rule changes, the shift, and different things that have happened here. So, a second baseman has to be a second baseman now and all of that. So we know those rule changes. We talked about them going into the season, about the shift, about the bigger bases, about the pitch clock and the phantom balls and strikes, and how many disengagements a pitcher can have and how many a hitter can have. So I'd love to get your thoughts now that we're a few weeks into the season on what those new rules have done to baseball, good or bad.
I think they're good. I think the game has been speeded up thanks to the umpires. You're right about the infielders, though, but the infielders are on the very, very, very edge of the outfield, let me tell you.
Yeah.
The shortstop and the second baseman are maybe one piece of grass into the outfield. They're still playing deep. But these guys are such great athletes, they can run down a ball anywhere and make the throw. So I'm very pleased. The guys are hitting better. They're stealing bases. The only thing that I had a little problem with is the timer for the pitcher and the timer for the batter. I know they tried to institute it in spring training and it worked. In the first week of the season, a few guys got pissed off because they got called on. But I haven't seen anything lately.
Yeah.
And the reason I think is because the pitchers are now beginning to lollygag a little bit on the mounds, looking for signs, stepping off, back in again. The batters step out to fix their glove about 50,000 times before they step into the box. I wish they would adhere to what they did, because I know they're going past the limit. I want them to exercise the control of the game that way. They should do that, because in order for us to enjoy the game and enjoy a quick game, 2.5 hours instead of 3 hours, or 3 hours instead of 3.5 hours, the umpires got to do their job.
Yeah, and we've seen these games be a lot shorter. Your thoughts on that? I mean, you watch games from all over the country. So what's your take on the game length now, and are you happy that some of these games are running a little bit quicker?
Oh, yeah, it's good. I've noticed a little bit on a few occasions that the starting pitchers are
quicker.
A little bit longer than they normally would last year, because of the time difference. They got a little bit more energy. They got some time to play, and they got some time to throw a little bit better. So instead of throwing 5 innings, maybe they're throwing 6. Instead of throwing 6, they're throwing 7. Except for Tampa Bay, who has a unbelievable pitching staff. But I think that's working very well. I like to see starting pitchers go as deep as they can into the game.
Yeah.
Like Garrett Cole and Marcus Stroman, some of these other guys that are really playing well. But I think all in all, it's working. I'm glad to see the stealing the bases. Catchers are really at a huge disadvantage here. The bases are much bigger, 50% bigger, and if you don't get a good ball caught and turned quickly to second base, you're not going to get the guy to steal him. So it's fun to watch. I mean, I have the games on in the afternoon and at night when I can do that. Last night I watched the Yankees and the Angels. The last 2 nights, and that's fun, because there's 60,000 screaming people there, and Mike Trout and Ohtani bring out half of them themselves. So it's good baseball. Things are really picking up. My standings in the leagues are really good. If you want me to go through those, I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I want to mention why every time you talk baseball to me, everything I always tell you, I said you win on pitching and defense. Well, in this particular case, it's true, except you have a little bit of offense to go with it. Let me go through what I want to do, and then I want to explain to you why Tampa Bay is so big. In the AL East, you got the Rays at 16-3. They are astounding the way they're playing ball. The Yankees are 11-7. Baltimore's a big surprise at 11-7. Toronto's 11-8, and Boston on the bottom at 9-10. Very competitive. Besides the Rays, very competitive AL East. The Central, not quite so. The Twins are 11-7. Cleveland is 10-9. They're not going anywhere, either one of them. The West, Texas is 12-6. My Angels are 9-9, and the Astros are 9-10. I look for those three teams all year to battle for the pennant. On the NL East, we got Atlanta at 14-5, hitting out all cylinders, pitching, defense, home runs. Leonard Lacuna, they're doing a great job. The Mets are 12-7. Miami is 10-9. Good division, really solid division. Central, Milwaukee, my Brewers are 14-5. Chicago's 11-6, and Pittsburgh is 12-7. Another very competitive division, really, really competitive. The West, you got your Diamondbacks at 11-8. My goodness, I never thought I'd say that. The Angels are the Dodgers are 9-10, and San Diego's 9-11. But Arizona's going to come back to the fold for sure. The one thing I want to say about the Rays, there's a lot of areas in baseball that you need to improve on when you're a team. You know, you're hitting, you're pitching, you're fielding. You know, stealing bases, home runs, RBIs, whatever. Stealing bases, whatever. This is what Tampa Bay has done now. They lead all the leagues. They lead in batting averages. They lead in runs. They lead in home runs. They lead in on-base percentage.
Yeah.
They lead in slugging percentage. They lead in ERA. They lead in home runs allowed. And they lead in batting averages against. That is astounding. 10 of their pitchers, 10 of them, have an ERA of under 3. Now, if you think about that and look at it and go look at their lineup, you still have to say, how the hell do they do it? Every year, going back to Joe Madden 10 years ago. They just have a way to do it down there, and they do it. And they're exciting to watch. They're not afraid to swing the bats. They know they got pitching to back it up. They still subscribe to the Joe Madden theory of two innings for a starting pitcher, maybe another 2 innings from a reliever, and then inning here until they get to 9. You know, that's the way they do it. And they keep their arms fresh. And they got guys that are under actually, they have 8 guys that are under 2-point ERA. So, you know, you play against the Rays. If you say a reliever come in, I wouldn't snap that up in a heartbeat. I wouldn't think that you could hit a reliever. But these guys prove that that they're the solid baseball team. Frankly, this is the best I've seen a team play in years. I mean, I can't even remember when a team is ahead in 8 different divisions of baseball and have ERAs the way they are and the batting average the way they are, and they're 16-3. There's nothing more you have to say, Daniel. You just have to watch these kids play. It's a pleasure to watch them play.
Yeah, you know, and we were talking yesterday on the show with Dukes Knutson, who runs the press box for the Tampa Bay Rays, and I've had the opportunity to know him over the years and connect with him, which has been fantastic. And he was talking about, you know, just this team and being in the atmosphere, being around them. What is it about Tampa, PJ? I mean, you were talking about what they lead in, what they're doing, their pitching and whatnot. I mean, you've watched them over the years. You're down in Florida, and I would love to, you know, go a little bit deeper into why you think this team is so successful and they keep doing it. Because like I said to Dukes, you know, they bring in a guy who's not a household name maybe, and then he becomes a household name, and then he leaves and goes somewhere else, and they say, what are the Rays going to do? And the Rays never crumble. They go and find another guy, 2 guys, 3 guys. They become household names, and then they do well, and then they move on, and then more guys come in. They have an eye for talent, number one. And number two, when they lose a franchise player, so to speak, the face of the franchise, other teams have crumbled, couldn't come back in 5 years, couldn't come back in a decade, couldn't come back in 20 years, couldn't come back in 3 years, 7 years, whatever it may be. The Rays consistently have built themselves into a culture and a system where when they lose some of those names that grew in Tampa, they continue to succeed. Why is Tampa so good?
Well, they have a deep farm system for one thing, and they're not afraid to bring the kids up either. If the kid is playing well in Double-A, hell, he won't be going to Triple-A. He'll be coming up. And Kevin Cash is a hell of a manager, and he's learned his trade from Joe Madden and from the other guys that he's been working with. They play baseball, Daniel. They don't sit back and slug and wait for a pitch they can drive. They play the game. They hit and run. They steal bases. They take an extra base on a single. They score from first on a double. I mean, they play baseball, and they're tough to beat. And once you get a team rolling like that, they don't make any mistakes. Their fielding is exceptional.
Yeah.
They got the corners, the third baseman and first baseman are excellent. Catching good. They got, I explained before, their pitchers are outrageous. I mean, you can't get any hits against them. You can't get any runs against them. They're fun to watch, and what I like to watch them is when they play the Yankees and the Red Sox, especially the Yankees. And the Yankees know now that they're in a battle. I mean, they have fought with Tampa Bay for years for that division. Sometimes Tampa Bay wins, sometimes New York does. But Aaron Boone now has got a really juggernaut of a team and unbelievable players. They're just the opposite of each other. New York's got a payroll of $300 million, and Tampa Bay doesn't even have a $100 million payroll. But these guys play baseball, and that's what you want to see. You want the fans to come out and say, why is Tampa so good? They play baseball, folks. They play it the right way. They hit and run. They steal. They hit home runs. They have a low ERA. They take extra bases. They do everything, and everything comes together. Kevin Cash is not afraid to pull the trigger on anything, whether runners are on base or pitchers coming in. If he doesn't like the way a pitcher is throwing, he's always got guys warming up in the bullpen. So, hence that, it's not unusual for Tampa Bay to use 6 or 7 pitchers in a 9-inning game, and that's how they're winning. They've been winning that way since Joe Madden, and they're still going to win.
And the thing is, we look at their bats. In their wins this season, in their 16 wins this season, if they score 4 or more runs, they win, outside of one game that they won 1-0 against the Red Sox. When this team scores 4 or more, and I'm going to tell you, this is how the season looks for the Rays. They won against the Tigers in the series 4-0, 12-2, 5-1. Nationals 6-2, 10-6, 7-2. The Oakland A's 9-5, 11-0, 11-0. Red Sox 1-0, 7-2, 9-7, 9-3. They lost their series to the Blue Jays and scored 3 runs in the first game, 2 runs in the second game. Then they scored 8 in the third game, won that 8-1. Then they lost to the Reds 8-1, and then were 10-0 against the Reds, 8-0 against the Reds most recently here, and they got the White Sox coming up. So this is a team that has, on numerous occasions this season, scored 8 or more runs. We're looking at a bunch of games here. We're looking at a 10-0, 11-0, 11-0, 10-6, 12-2. What can you say about the bats of this team this season?
Well, the bats are good. The bats are there, but they're not on the top of the average board. They're just, all of them are hitting maybe 250 to 280. They lost to Toronto 2 out of 3 games, and there's a reason why that is. Max Chapman, Bo Bichette, and Vladimir Guerrero are in the top 5 for batting averages. 397, 354, and 338. And Tampa Bay lost to them 2 out of 3. Why? Because Toronto out-hit them. They couldn't out-pitch them. They out-hit them. And that's going to come up. Things are going to start moving differently, Daniel. You're going to see some of the teams playing differently against Tampa Bay. Some, they're going to try to score some runs early. They're not going to sit back and wait on their big pitchers to shut them out or try to shut them out. Not going to happen. So the other teams are going to be wary of Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay needs to be wary too. There's, besides Chapman hitting 397, Bo Bichette is 354, and Vladimir Guerrero 338 for Toronto. Those are heavy averages.
Yeah.
Tampa's best hitter is Aaron Zarina at 333 with 4 homers and 18 RBIs. Everyone else is under that, under 300, really. So, and they don't have anyone pitching. Lou McClanahan is the one pitcher that stands out that does well, but he's not in the same league as Ohtani. There's an ERA of .86. Garrett Cole is .95 with 4 wins and 32 Ks. They don't have that kind of pitching. They just have a collection of guys that know how to pitch. And if you can go out there and give your ass for 1 inning, that's all Kevin Cash is looking for. Every inning. He plays it by the inning. Doesn't play it by the game.
Yeah, and I mean, this Tampa Bay Rays team has been incredible. Absolutely incredible this season to start off the season the way they have. On the other side of it, PJ, we have seen the Oakland A's. A question came in this morning. Do we believe that the Oakland A's will beat the Major League record with 120 losses this season?
Oh, I hope not. I mean, that's embarrassing, but I know they're going through some changes over there. Ever since the Bash brothers, I guess 30 years ago, I really never followed Oakland that much. Canseco and his goofy brother. But they got a long way to go. Their farm system needs to be sharpened a little bit, and they need some players to play. And they don't have those kind of players yet. They don't have that kind of pitching either. So, when you're stuck with a team like that, especially if you're managing, you're trying to put something together. How can I win this next inning?
Yeah.
Not the next game, but the next inning. How can I win this inning? Should I bring another pitcher in for 2 innings? Go another inning? Bring someone else in for an inning? That's how they're trying to play the ball. And it's hard to do, especially if you don't have the talent. If you don't have the talent to hitting to back up the pitching, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, in the Oakland A's, I mean, obviously Oakland, the city itself, lost the Raiders recently, so some people are sitting here asking if they're going to lose this team as well with the Athletics. So, hopefully that's not the case for Oakland, and hopefully things get better. But we're seeing 2 different ends of the spectrum here, and it is very sad to see where the Oakland A's are at right now. So, PJ and I continuing the conversation here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Papa Joe, sweating Rosen. That's what's Max Scherzer saying was on his hand, that sticky substance, whatever it was, the foreign substance that he got ejected from the game for. He says it's sweat and Rosen. What do you think?
This was ludicrous. I watched it yesterday, and I knew it was happening because I could sense something was wrong. And out comes the umpires, out comes the opposing manager, and then they start confabbing and talking. Then they bring Scherzer in. Then Buck Showalker's got to go out there. And they start talking, and they weren't arguing. They were just talking loud. And Matt Scherzer was pleading his case.
Yeah.
And they threw him out. Daniel, Matt Scherzer is a Hall of Fame pitcher, period. He doesn't need junk to win. He doesn't need junk to strike out guys and make look foolish. He's a Hall of Fame pitcher. I don't know what the umpires are doing, but it's ludicrous. This is a class guy who is a good teammate, and he's being abused, I think. He doesn't need that sticky stuff, whatever the hell they're trying to do. Rosin is part of the game, for one thing. Rosin's everywhere. Rosin's in the bag. Rosin's in the on-bag seater, next batter's circle. Rosin's in the dugout. Rosin's everywhere. Guys can use it wherever. You put it on their bats. I don't know what the umpires are trying to do. They know, umpires know that Max Scherzer has good stuff. And if his stuff is better than normal, then they want to break his balls. I don't know why they're breaking his balls, but they don't have to do it anymore. I think they embarrassed themselves yesterday, and they let a good pitcher leave a game that was very important to the Mets. I think they came back and win it anyway, but you want to see guys like Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer on the same team. Verlander's coming back probably in another couple of weeks. Watch these 2 Hall of Famers try to pull the Mets through. But what they did yesterday was embarrassing.
Yeah, so I mean, we go back to it, and now he says that his hand was sticky due to the combination of sweat and Rosen. Now he was ejected before the bottom of the fourth inning. The team won 5-3 over the Dodgers, that being the Mets. And umpire Phil Cousy thought that his right hand was too sticky. And so Scherzer said after the second inning, his hand was clumpy from the Rosen-Sweat combination, and then he washed his hand with alcohol. He said, quote, I knew I was going to be checked in the fourth, so I'd have to be an absolute idiot to try to do something when I come back out for the fourth. End quote. He said he washed his hands, reapplied the Rosen and Sweat, and with an MLB official watching before going out for the fourth inning. So, this is something.
Ridiculous. Isn't that ridiculous?
But I mean,
they got to watch the guy wash his damn hands, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Well, and here's the thing too. I mean, last year, wasn't this another thing? This was a thing with him last year that he was being watched. So the question is, for number one, I mean, is this something that they're going to do to him all season? Is the question that kind of comes down the pipe here. I mean, are people just jealous that he's that good? Are they trying to find something wrong with him and hope there's something wrong with him? I think you and I weren't we watching a game where they came out and checked? I think we were watching a game last season where they came out and checked the pitcher, and I'm trying to remember if it was Scherzer or not. But they came out and checked the pitcher then, and they were trying to figure out they didn't eject that pitcher though. So what's your take on it, PJ, and how do you look at something like this, knowing that this could continue to happen? By the way, there's already a shirt out there that you can buy that says Sweat and Rosen, and it's in Mets colors.
I love it. I love it. Look at Scherzer, like most big game pitchers, has large hands. And when you're gripping a baseball by the tips of your fingers, and under the baseball, you put your thumb. You put your thumb there to get rotation when you start spinning the ball. Some guys with large hands have a tremendous spin, and Scherzer's one of them. And I don't want to see him being chastised for something like that. If they want to look at his hand, give him the ball and say, here, how do you throw a fastball? Put your two fingers across the seam, put your thumb on the bottom, and hold it. That's how I throw a fastball. I get a lot of rotation because of my thumb. It has nothing to do with cheating. Max Scherzer doesn't have to cheat.
Well, and the thing is, and Greg just wrote in here to the show that it's just been Phil. It says Cousy is the only umpire to throw out a pitcher for a substance 3 times. He's done it. The only umpire. So I mean, do you investigate Phil now? Do you investigate this umpire that's throwing guys out for this? What do we do?
Well, I would think that umpire that was calling that game has moved on to another league. Maybe, you got some really good pitchers in baseball. Garrett Cole comes to mind. His stuff is wicked. I mean, why don't you look at Garrett Cole's hand or glove? It doesn't make sense. I'm very upset about it. I hate to see it. I hate to see it. I want to see. Look at Ohtani. I mean, that guy throws 5 pitches for strikes.
Yeah.
Maybe even 6. 5 pitches. And why don't they look at his hand? His stuff is all over the place. Down and in, up and away, he's change ups. His hands are large too. Why don't they check Ohtani? I don't know why they got it in for Scherzer, but I'd like to see that. I'd like to see them cooler heads prevail and say, let the men pitch the game. They're being watched closely, too closely as it is. I mean, Scherzer goes down on the mound, picks up the rosin back and ready to pitch. All of a sudden, they're going to come out and break his balls. I don't get it. Don't want to say it either.
Yeah, I mean, but it is. And to stay with pitching though, let's stay with pitching. Let's stay in New York. Garrett Cole, we know that he is one of the strong pitchers out there in Major League Baseball. Is he going to be enough for the Yankees? Do you feel like anybody else is stepping up in the Yankees bullpen to make you feel like this team has more than Garrett Cole?
Jermaine pitched a good game last night against the Angels. They got spotty pitching behind Cole, but the Yankees are going to win because of their offense, and that's the name of the game. Aaron Judge hit a home run his first at bat last night, and frankly, after that, the game was 2-0. Jermaine was pitching well. Angels couldn't get going, so I would think that me saying that the Yankees probably hit better than most of the teams in the American League, and with that, should be enough to win their division. Pitching won't, unfortunately. My pitching and defense is not going to work here. They got great defense. They got this kid playing shortstop they brought up. I think he was the third pick in the last year's draft. They needed a player, and he came up, and he's been playing well and hitting well. So they're going to hit, and they're going to field, and they're going to pitch. I think the Yankees can win with Garrett Cole and some spotty pitchers behind him.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with these teams as we move forward. We'll see what happens with the appeal for Max Scherzer and how this will go as well. Sweat and Rose and get your T-shirts. They're available now. I shared the link on our social media, so you could go and get your T-shirt. I might get one myself. So with that being said, happy to be here with you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with Papa Joe. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back with more coming up here in just a few minutes on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studio. Still have the NFL and the Jaguars to talk about after this. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first They fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York, open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and can't thank you enough for being a part of the show. However, you're connecting with us on youtube.com, facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So however you're tuning in, thank you so much. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'? Hour number 1 is Poppin' with Papa Joe, and we are talking about baseball, football, and of course getting into those Jaguars a little bit deeper. PJ and I have been talking about Major League Baseball, so we're going to shift gears for a second to the other field here, and that being the football field. Let's see what else we got. PJ lined up for draft day Thursday in Kentucky Derby Insight on Star Wars Day, May 4th. We will be talking about that coming up as we get closer, Greg, so appreciate the question here, and thank you for that. PJ, a week from today, as I spoke about, we have the draft, the NFL draft, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are on line for pick number 24. We are not the number 1 pick. What did I say last year? I said, as long as we don't have the number 1 pick 3 years in a row, I'm going to be happy. Not only do we not have the number 1 pick, we don't have the number 2, the number 9, anywhere in the top 10. We are pick 24. Papa Joe, what does it feel like to have the Jaguars, as you're down there in North Florida, to have the Jaguars come in the 20s this year instead of right at the top of the draft?
High expectations down here, Daniel. High expectations. Calvin Ridley was talking junk the other day. I wish he'd shut his mouth and just play ball. Trevor Lawrence was describing what his expectations were. I think the way things are happening down here is that I have a lot of pundits I listen to, and I get my own research, and I have 2, 4, 6, 8. I got about 25 names here.
Yeah,
who've all been associated with being drafted by the Jaguars. Of course, that's unrealistic, but some of them are pretty strong. And last week, I mentioned 5 guys that I thought would be good for a number 1 pick. I think it was Will McDonald of Iowa State, Lucas Van Ness from Ohio State, Darnell Wright from Tennessee, Nolan Smith from Georgia, and Cyrus Torrance, the Gators, an offensive line. But since then, there's been more players that have been named in the first round, and a lot more for the second all the way through the 7th. The player that I'm watching very closely is the consensus pick for number 1, the Jaguars, is Brian Branch, a cornerback for the Alabama. Apparently, he has impressed an awful lot of people and moved up the draft board a lot. And he may not be available at 24. But that's what I'm looking at for right now, Daniel, is Brian Branch at 24. There was even talk of a guy from Syracuse, Matt Bergenson, who was an offensive lineman, supposed to be going in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
I got a whole bunch of names to go over, but talk about Brian Branch from about Alabama. 6 foot 190, runs like the wind, tackles ferociously. Don't know why he hasn't been brought up until now. Maybe he just was on guys' radar, but now he's really on guys' radar. I'm looking at Brian Branch at number 24.
Yeah, and there's articles that have been written that Jacksonville should draft him, as you were talking about, and get somebody like that. And you mentioned Matt Bergeron, so I'll mention him in a second. But Brian Branch coming to this team, when you look at the safety world for the Jaguars, I mean, they used to have punch down, punch out, drag out safeties and guys that would definitely hit you in the mouth, let you know that they're there. And now seeing a guy like Brian Branch from Alabama, we look at his statistics in 3 seasons. In 2020, he had 27 total tackles, 19 solo. He had 2 interceptions that season in his first season with Alabama collegiately. And then we look at 2021, he had 55 total tackles, 34 solo. He had a sack, he had a fumble recovery, and then this past season he had 90 total tackles, 58 solo, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions. So he's definitely done a lot here, been able to, sniff out the ball interception-wise, fumble-wise, and get to the quarterback for some sacks here as a defensive back coming off the edge. So got to give credit where credit's due on Brian Branch. He played for Nick Saban. He was at Alabama. He's a 6-foot safety and just around 200 pounds is what they had him at here collegiately. So it'll be exciting to see what he could do. I mean, we know that at the end of the season for Alabama, on December 31st, they played up against Kansas State. He had 12 tackles, 11 of 12 were solo, and had a sack in that game. So, Brian Branch, what'd you say?
He's a very, very impressive player.
Yeah.
The only problem I have is that I don't think he's going to be available at 24, Daniel.
Well, and that's the thing. I looked at, and people that have listened to the show over the last few weeks, I've said the same thing over and over and over again. I've said, I said that when it comes to Jacksonville, they need to address offensive and defensive line depth, and maybe even pushing somebody into being a potential starter with Juwan Taylor leaving for the Kansas City Chiefs at right tackle. So you need to address offensive line. Probably you need to address offensive and defensive line. Offensive line, I would say, first, and then you look at linebacker and maybe somebody in the secondary. So I've said where they should look, and this is where they're looking when we talk about safety Brian Branch and Matt Bergeron, as you had spoken about here. The Syracuse Orange had not had a 1,000-yard back in a long time, and it had dated back. The last time a 1,000-yard back did it in back-to-back seasons was DeLon Carter in 2009 and 10. And so when you look at something like that, and then you say, okay, after that, the last 1,000-yard back was almost a decade in between Jerome Smith in 2012 all the way to what we had with Sean Tucker. So Sean Tucker, with what he's done, who did he run behind? Matt Bergeron. And Matt Bergeron was someone that came into Syracuse, played as a true freshman. There was injuries that happened, so he had to come out and play as a true freshman for the Syracuse Orange. And, I got to watch this guy. I mean, this guy comes from Canada, and which I love that. I love that connection and what he's building for Canada. Him and I spoke about that. And like I said, had to play as a true freshman and has played since, helping out the team wherever they needed to be helped at that tackle position. Matt Bergeron has been an asset to this team, and they're going to have to really develop somebody. And they talked about Enrique A. Cruz Jr., who's my guy. If I ever run for president, I told him he'll be running with me as VP. And then when I'm done, we get to flip, and I get to be his VP, so we can have the White House for 16 years. And we'll have a good time with that, I'm sure. We'll definitely play the right music. So Berge and I have talked over time, and he's actually worked out with the Jaguars. Him and I had a conversation about the fact that I saw the Jaguars working him out. I'm actually going to post some of those photos, but I saw him work it out with the Jaguars at Syracuse Pro Day, and I asked him about it. I said, Jacksonville's got a pick in the 20s. They just had, and he looked at me, he goes, Juwan Taylor? I know, he's gone to the Chiefs. He's like, yeah, I've talked to the Jaguars a bunch. So he could be available at that point, and he could help out the Jacksonville Jaguars on the offensive line side of things. So that is something to look at, PJ. I did see a member of the Jaguars staff actually work him out. He had spoken about working out with them and talking with them. He's 6'5", and he's over 300 pounds, and he could help out, and he could be available in the 20s.
I like it. I like the pick. I like what I read about him. And I know there's some other offensive line that I talked about last week. Darnell Wright from Tennessee, a big man, going to be available, and Cyrus Torrance from the Gators offensive line. All these guys now that you see coming into the league in the last maybe 5 years, they're all 6'5" and 330 pounds. They're absolute beasts. And I'm very pleased because I touted this guy when he first came to the Jaguars, Walker Little. I talked about him a lot. They didn't give him a chance to play that much his first year. Last year, I guess he was flip-flopping with Juwan Taylor and Cam Robinson. Now he's going to be probably the left tackle. No, he'll be the right tackle in the offense. I can't wait to see him play because he's a very big man and moves very, very good, very fast for a big man. It's 6'7", 330-something pounds. So I look for maybe a lot of sweeps on the right end with Etienne getting around corner. Walker Little doing a lot of damage that way. There are some other offensive linemen that DeJuan Jones from Ohio State is another one that was mentioned as an offensive tackle. And that's it. Those are the only ones. They're the only ones we talked about. Darnell Wright, Osiris Torrance, Donwan Jones, and your boy, Matt Bergeron.
Yeah, and I'm going to be coming out with my mock draft as well. I'm looking at the mock draft, one of the mock drafts that's out there right now, and seeing what they're addressing for the Jaguars through the entire draft, and they are addressing offensive and defensive line and corner. They went after tight ends in this mock draft, which I don't really agree with because I feel like that would be a wasted pick for this team this season, and because one of them I'm looking at has them drafting 2 tight ends, and I don't really see the value in that. I'd rather them go and get some more safeties or corners or offensive line or bring in another linebacker or hit that defensive line a little bit. I don't think there's a necessity for the Jacksonville Jaguars to go and get a tight end right now, especially because they did what they did to make sure that they get to keep their guy in Evan Engram. So, we'll see as we get closer here, and I'm excited to do my mock draft next week because we do something really cool here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We do a mock draft, number 1, and number 2, we go on-site, on location to Pizza Man. We started this last year. We'll be on-site, on location at Pizza Man with Al Romano, who won a national championship with the Pitt Panthers in college as he was teammates with Tony Dorsett. Him and I sit down on the stage of Pizza Man Pub on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, and about an hour before the draft, we go through our mock draft. We make our picks. We give our conversation, discussion, and reasons why, and then we sit with you for the first portion of the draft to see how right we were or weren't, and we will actually respond to the draft as it's happening. So draft day will be spent at Pizza Man again this year, PJ. What do you think of that?
Well, you're going to have a lot of fun with it, I'm sure. There are other players that were mentioned. You mentioned tight ends. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them on my list. I got Dalton Kincaid from Utah, who Jaguars really think an awful lot of. I have Darnell Washington from Georgia. I have Luke Schoonmaker from Michigan, and I got Will Mallory from Miami. These 4 guys were all mentioned with the pundits that were trying to figure out what the Jaguars wanted. So I'm not sure that they agree with your appraisal of not taking a tight end. Maybe down the road, maybe in the 6th round, 7th round, one of these guys available, they will grab them. But they are looking at tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that they can't take one later. I'm looking at some of these mock drafts that are using one of those earlier round picks on them, or I don't think they need to take them in the first 3 rounds. That's not how I see that right now. But yeah, I mean, the Jaguars, again, I mean, I think, to me, it's really clear what they have to address. They have to address offensive and defensive line. I think they need another linebacker, and I think their secondary needs some help as well. I don't think their secondary is bad. I think their secondary just needs some more power, some more hits, and, I mean, I miss some of those guys that they used to be back there, and that hitting ability and that kind of fear in the back. I do think, Cisco's done some good things. I mean, Tyson Campbell that they drafted out of Ohio State. There's some guys back there that have made some things happen that I want to give credit where credit is due. I just think it's not going to hurt to bring in another guy or two in their secondary to help them out. So we'll see as we go here, and we'll see as things continue to move forward on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. And I'm really looking forward to the fact that I'll be able to do my mock draft, and PJ and I will be able to talk with you on draft day. Papa Joe, before I let you go here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, what does it say? Throw them darts and see what sticks. If you're legit nailed 20% correct, you did well. And hey, Greg, last year I was kicking some tail with my mock draft. I apparently the wrong shade of green, because I'm a teal, right? I'm a Jaguar, but that forest green Jets, I picked the first 4 picks by the Jets. I feel like I was like, how do the Jets GM and I had the same brain for the first 4 picks? It was uncanny and nuts. And so we'll see how we go from. I also said Kenny Pickett was going to come off the board, and Malik Willis fell. And what did I say about Desmond Ridder, my guy from Cincinnati? I said that he was good. He deserves a chance, an opportunity. He was the second quarterback taken, not Malik Willis or anybody else, not Matt Corral. It was Desmond Ridder. So remember that, folks, because I said within his first couple seasons he would eventually be given the opportunity to run that offense, and that's there already with the Marcus Mariota debacle. So excited to see what's going to happen with my guys, and I always appreciate having them out there. PJ, we talk about quarterbacks, as I just mentioned a few, and we saw this week that Jalen Hurts has signed an extension, a 5-year, $255 million extension with over $170 million guaranteed. If you break it down on average per year, it's $51 million. I know that's not how it's going to be every year, but if you just broke it down brass tax-wise, $51 million annually is what it marks out to be. It's the second highest guaranteed money, only to Deshaun Watson's fully guaranteed $230 million. What are your thoughts on the Jalen Hurts extension? Did the Eagles do the right thing? Did they overpay, underpay? What did they do?
Oh, I think they got it right. I think the kid proved last year that he was a top 10 quarterback. He may not be a top 5 quarterback, but he's a smart man. He was coached by his father. He's come all the way up through the systems. He knows how to play football. He knows the quarterback position. I know he likes to run because he's a big guy. I wish he wouldn't, but if he calls his own number, he's got to call his own number. That's all. But I think he's more of a short line kind of quarterback. If you're on the 1 yard line, just give him the ball and let him smash over. But if you're in the midfield, the 20 or 30 yard line, and he's at an end sweep, I don't think you want him carrying the ball. I think he's a smart quarterback, and I think he deserves it. And Philadelphia is going to be reckoned with this year again.
Yeah, and I think, listen, at the end of the day, what he's done, Jalen Hurts for this team. I mean, and think about this, PJ. He was ousted by Tua in Alabama. He left and went to Oklahoma. Tua takes over in Alabama. So this is a guy that if he stayed in Alabama would have been the backup quarterback, and now he is one of the highest paid players in the NFL and the second highest guaranteed contract money of all time in the NFL.
It's good. Good for him. I think he's I never liked Deshaun Watson. I don't know how he got the money, even if they're coming through with all that stuff that he went through with his problems. Just call them that, problems. I think I don't think he deserved the money, but Jalen Hurts deserves this kind of money because he's seen the stars. He knows what he's got to do. He knows how far his football team can go, and he's going to carry him.
I appreciate what Jalen Hurts has done, and I agree with you completely when it comes to the other side of it. The other side of it being Deshaun Watson. I appreciate what Jalen Hurts has actually done. Deshaun Watson hasn't done much of anything. Again, he won that division. With the Houston Texans when the rest of the division was terrible. Tennessee wasn't who they became to be a few years down the pipe. The Jaguars were not even a shadow of who they are today. And the Colts have been all over the place since Andrew Luck had his untimely retirement. So with Deshaun Watson, he's talented, But I saw his receivers carry him through the ACC championship against Virginia Tech when he was at Clemson. And I saw, in with the Houston Texans, they didn't have to be great. They had to win maybe 9 games a season, and that got them into the playoffs, and it won the division of the AFC South. So it's not that Deshaun isn't talented, but to give a guy a fully guaranteed contract when that doesn't happen in the NFL, and to give it to a guy who's never won a Super Bowl, and a guy who wasn't playing for a year during this process, a guy who was undergoing off-the-field issues and problems, that's the last person in the world I would give a fully guaranteed contract to, is someone who's not playing football, has gotten in trouble, is going through a legal battle. Now, granted, if he was totally innocent, then that's an unfortunate situation. I look at it from when you give a fully guaranteed contract for that amount of money, $230 million, to a guy who's not playing football and has never been to the Super Bowl, let alone win one, that sets the bar so low for a quarterback to get that kind of money. Because then if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm saying, well, I won a Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes, I won a couple. Then you look at Jalen Hurts, well, I've been to the Super Bowl. So, that changes the market in a really bad way. And what I think the Deshaun Watson move did is I think the Deshaun Watson move arguably makes it difficult for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens to negotiate. Now that Jalen Hurts made the money that he's making, granted he's made it to the Super Bowl, Lamar has not. But now my question comes to you, PJ. Are we in a position right now with Lamar Jackson where Jalen Hurts' contract has now hurt the chances of Lamar signing with Baltimore? Because if allegedly Baltimore doesn't want to give him that big time money and that's what he wants, now that he's seen Jalen Hurts get what he gets and we know the quarterback market is where it is, has the Jalen Hurts signing extension for $255 million on top of the Deshaun Watson contract of last year, have these two contracts put the Ravens in a bad place, a worse place with Lamar Jackson?
Well, you probably won't agree with me on this, but I think that Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson.
Oh, yeah, he is. No, I agree.
Not that he's not a good quarterback. He certainly is an amazing quarterback. But I think that Jalen Hurts has proved that he could win in the highest level. But Lamar hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Lamar Jackson. And what I think the issue is with Lamar, if I am Baltimore, and we're going to talk about this more when Chris Heidel comes on from Baltimore, Maryland. But my thing with Lamar is you can't ask for the money that Jalen Hurts is getting because you don't stay healthy. And the Deshaun Watson thing, that just threw a monkey wrench into everybody because Deshaun Watson wasn't even playing. He was going, like I said, he was going through off-the-field issues. He wasn't playing, and his team wasn't doing great in Houston. And so for him to get the amount of money that he got, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to put him in the money world of Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. It doesn't make sense. So that kind of screwed everybody up, in my opinion, because you're taking a guy who's not in the top tier, who hasn't won a Super Bowl, who hasn't been to a Super Bowl, who hasn't won consistently and wasn't playing for a year, and you gave him $230 million guaranteed. So if I'm Lamar Jackson, I'm going, okay, well, I deserve more than Deshaun, and he's not wrong with that. He's not wrong with that. Most quarterbacks in the upper echelon, they're not wrong with that. Obviously, I should say all the quarterbacks above Deshaun Watson, because Deshaun Watson's not in the top 10, so anybody in the top 10 can ask for more than 230, and I get that. But he's not Jalen Hurts, and he's not Pat Mahomes. He doesn't stay healthy. And so I've defended Lamar Jackson that he's a quarterback and deserves to play quarterback, and I felt like when I was saying all these good things about Lamar years ago, there were crickets in the room. There was like maybe one other person that was agreeing with me. So that is where I'm at, in the sense of I defended him as a quarterback. I defended him as an NFL caliber quarterback, but I can't defend that he should be making Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts money, but I can't argue that he should be making Deshaun Watson money because Papa Joe, I think that Deshaun Watson contract screwed everything up.
I agree with that. Frankly, I'm surprised the guy even was allowed back in football after his off-the-field problems. I know he was suspended for the longest time, but, a shady character like that doesn't deserve to be playing the league and to get the kind of money he's talking about. Now, Lamar Jackson also, I think, has made another error in judgment, and that by not getting an agent. He may think he's a smart guy and he knows what's going on and he knows this, he knows that. But an agent is the one that's supposed to get all this stuff for you. So you got to give him 10% of your money. Big deal. If you get $200 million, that's nothing, you know. But I really think that Lamar should probably consider that instead of negotiating himself. Find himself a really, really, really good agent and try to find a deal somewhere.
Yeah, Charles Barkley came out and said something about this situation. He said in this, and now Charles Barkley commenting on the Lamar Jackson situation, he said, "These dudes, they're all billionaires. They're not going to let you screw up their business model. You've got to take the best deal. You're playing with fire, brother. You're going to get burnt." End quote. So, you know, that's what Barkley's saying in this situation. Now, if I'm Lamar Jackson and I'm getting offered any type of an extension that has to do with 200 whatever, you know, then I'm looking at that. That's how I'm seeing this. If they come to me and say, "Hey, we're going to re-sign, we're going to extend you 4 years, 200 whatever, 5 years, 200 whatever," I mean, that's substantial. You know, that's substantial money. And I just in the NFL this year, or in the NFL right now, and really in sports in general, my issue with some of these contracts is that they're absolutely outrageous and they're so high. And the thing is, what are you really fighting over? You know what I mean? You're going to get 200, 210. Well, Dan, it's an extra $10 million. Yeah, but most people will never see $1 million cumulatively in their lifetime. Most people will never see $1 million. And, you know, you want to fight between 205 and 210 and this, that, whatever. Now, when we look at this, some of the things that have been out there is that Lamar Jackson was offered $250 million with $200 million guaranteed in September of 2022, including $133 million guaranteed at signing. So this is something here. Now, he doesn't have an agent, as you had mentioned, and he denied a report that he turned down $200 million guaranteed. So the back and forth of what's actually going on here, and has he been offered this much? Has he not been offered this much? But if he's being, like I said, if his contract extension is $200 million whatever, I think he needs to take it. I think he needs to take it, PJ. I mean, I don't understand. If you're Lamar Jackson and you've been injured multiple times at the worst possible time of the season, at the end of the season, they didn't have you for the playoffs this past season. If you're going to play a season and not be healthy for all 17 games, not healthy for the postseason, you can't be sitting here negotiating saying, "I'm great, I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm Pat Mahomes." No, you're not. You haven't won a Super Bowl. So if I'm sitting down with him, I'm willing to talk about 4 or 5 years. I'm willing to talk about $200 million with less of that guaranteed. But I'm not going to sit here and make Lamar Jackson the highest paid player. I'm not going to sit here and give him the same amount of money as some of these guys that's out there. And I don't want to spend 40 to 50 million on him per season. I might want to spend 30, maybe 35. But I mean, we don't know the inner workings of who's saying what, because it's all this outside people making claims. And obviously a bunch of people have made claims, but no contract's been signed. Whatever John Harbaugh and the team are doing, and on the other side of it, you know, looking at, and not even John Harbaugh, but whatever the front office of the Ravens are doing and whatever Lamar is doing, at the end of the day, if I'm Lamar Jackson and I get 4 or 5 years extended, 200 whatever million, I'm signing the contract.
That's true. I like that deal. And if he sticks to his guns and says, "Well, I'll tell you what, give me Deshaun Watchman's contract and I'll sign right now." You know, he may have the balls to say that, but I'm not sure. But I do think that he's not thinking here properly. He really needs an agent. He really needs an agent.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, listen, I understand representing yourself. You could trust yourself. You could go through this with yourself. There's got to be people that he can count on, though, and that's what I'm hoping that he has. If for nothing else, I hope that he has an inner circle of people that he can count on, that he can talk to, that he can address things with. Because, you know, even with me running my own business, you have your circle of people that you talk to, you bounce ideas off of, And, that's, if you're not going to have an agent, at least have somebody a best friend, a parent, an uncle, an aunt, a teacher, a mentor that you can kind of go to and sit with in confidence and know that they're going to keep the conversation between you and them. You have to have that. So not everybody has a PJ and an MT. I know that. But to those of us that do, you got to utilize it. And if you don't have one, you got to be open to finding one. So, Papa Joe, before I let you go, you thought it would happen, but it's not going to happen. I have to ask you about the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who weeks ago was supposed to talk about misinformation. He was signing with the Jets and signing with the Jets and signing with the Jets, and he's going to sign today. No, it's tomorrow. No, the fax didn't go through. Oh no, he sent it through AOL, and when he was on AOL, the dial-up wasn't working correctly. Oh, you know what? He tried to send it by Morse code over the phone, but it just didn't go through. This man was a Jet. He's a Packer. He's a Jet. He's a Packer. We don't know what he is. We just know he's dramatic. Two different shades. Well, the shade of green is pretty much the same, but the reality of it all is Aaron Rodgers. We talk about, how about this? Let's go with this. I don't know if anybody said this before. The Green Bay Packers shade of green and the Jets shade of green is the same shade of green that's on money, and that seems to be the only thing that's driving Aaron Rodgers right now, and maybe placement. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have a home yet. He's still a Packer, which we all know, but he doesn't. And I think a month ago at least, people were saying, oh, he's going to be a Jet. He's going to be a Jet today. No, it's going to happen today. Well, he's still not a Jet, PJ, and I'm not surprised. I told people to get ready for the Real Housewives of East Rutherford, New Jersey, where that team plays, and we are still in the situation that we're in right now. None of this has surprised me. Has it surprised you?
No, not at all. Of course not. My bros keep telling me the same junk up there. It's just more drama from Aaron Rodgers. He's really been quiet though lately. I think he's waiting for things to settle down. I'm not sure he's going to make an announcement before the draft or maybe after the draft. But it certainly wouldn't be fair to the teams out there that are considering him to do this, to at least make a deal before the draft, so the team can be prepared to go where they need to go. You got 4 or 5 teams out there would love to have Aaron Rodgers that have high draft picks. And if you got a 1 or a 2 or a 5 or a 6, and there's a lot of good quarterbacks out there. There's 5 right now that I say will go in the first 10 rounds. A team could select one of those if they don't have Aaron Rodgers. They got Aaron Rodgers, then that's a different story. But I don't think Aaron is playing fair here. I know he wants the best deal possible. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But he's not being fair to the other teams in the league. There are other teams that need a quarterback that are willing to go in the first round of this draft. And if he was already signed with someone, it would take the pressure off those other teams. That's all. He's not playing fair. That's all. It would be fair. It would be fair for him to announce a team before the draft and then let the chips fall where they like.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, essentially, in my opinion, he's keeping the Jets hostage. He's keeping the Packers hostage, and he's a big domino to fall. He's a big piece in the NFL. So by him doing what he's doing, this could be a giant chess move of trying to screw up the rest of the NFL so that whatever team he plays for, he's got a better fighting chance at going somewhere. What he's forgotten is Pat Mahomes is still a Chief, right? And Joe Burrow is still a Bengal, right? And so, you look at some of these things in the up-and-coming Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville that hopefully will continue to be on an upward trajectory to put himself in a good position for the future. Jalen Hurts is still an Eagle. So, whatever happens, he still has to run through a gamut, whether he's in the AFC or the NFC. He's still going to have to face some good talent. But I just feel like he's holding everybody hostage, and I don't appreciate it. And I've said this, and I'll say it again. I think the Jets, with their picks that they have, I think the Jets in the 3rd or 4th round need to, maybe earlier, but I think definitely in the 3rd round they need to draft a quarterback. I think they need to go after a quarterback and just kind of save their behind just in case. The last thing I want to happen to the New York Jets is to be told over and over again that Aaron Rodgers is going to go on a date with you, but when you show up at the door with your flowers and you're all dressed up in your suit and Aaron isn't at the door because Aaron went out with somebody else, I don't want that to happen to the Jets. I don't want the Jets to have a bad prom night, is what I'm saying.
Well, the Jets are in a very tough position, but I think they do need to be prepared. And if I were them, I certainly would go ahead and and plan to draft someone. And if things do fall apart, then at least they can carry forward. Aaron Rodgers has the propensity to carry a team to the playoffs and beyond. We know he's a Hall of Famer, 4-time most valuable player in this league, unprecedented. He's just the best. He and Brady, and he's on in years, but he can still play for another couple of years. And I think it's embarrassing to the NFL the way what's happening. And I'm not so sure that the NFL should have stepped in and say, listen, you guys have been jacking around for all this time. How about making a deal here so we can carry on with the draft? Yeah. I would be a little bit more aggressive if I were Tag Boot. So, that's my opinion on it. I've had that opinion for 3 years. I mean, Aaron hasn't changed at all. All he's done is change girlfriends. He hasn't changed teams. So if he changed teams, the Jets would be very fortunate to have him, I think.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But Lamar Jackson, still not a Raven for long term. Aaron Rodgers still doesn't know what the heck he's going to be. So we're still in those situations. But then again, Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts are sitting here going, hey, we're out here practicing with our players. Y'all can figure that out, but we're getting better while you're trying to figure out what's happening. So Ravens, Lamar, blank or get off the pot. Aaron, make up your mind and stop playing this dance with everybody, okay? Nobody wants to deal with this. And it does. It's like prom night. Am I going to go with this, or am I going to go with that girl or that girl? Or that girl or that girl? And it's like, dude, just figure it out. She put her dress on. She looks good. Do you want her to cry with the mascara she just put on, or do you want her to have the best night of her life? Figure it out, Aaron Rodgers. Or go back to the cabin and do it all over again. I don't know what to tell you. I'm all about retreats. But did he learn anything from it? I hope he did. We don't know. I guess we'll find out. And whatever. It's just dramatic, and I'm over it. And the Lamar Jackson thing has been going on for such a long time that I wish the Ravens and Lamar would just figure. At this point, are they saying no to each other because it's just easy to say? There's negotiations that get dull. Negotiations start to die off. They start to fade off. And I know this as a business person. You can negotiate, but there's a certain place that you get to where both people start to get lethargic and they start to get fatigued by it. And if you're not careful, then both people are just going to kind of look at the ground, and both sides are eventually going to go say, screw it, I don't even want to. Because you get to a point in your brain where the negotiation is over because you just don't care anymore. And I hope Baltimore and Lamar aren't there already, but it kind of feels like they might be. With that being said, Papa Joe, appreciate you as always. And the next time you and I will talk is on draft day, and I can't wait for that.
Okay, we'll see you.
Take care.
Have a good day.
You too. Coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. Chris Heidel coming up in just a few minutes here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora of HerbFM Sports Radio in Baltimore, Maryland, to continue the conversation about Lamar Jackson, the NFL, and what name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal are doing to collegiate athletics. Hear all of that coming up in just a bit here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, where sports meets life.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily, and we bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success at Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. Can't say that I appreciate you enough for being here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And I am here picture in picture with Chris Heidel from HerbFM Sports Radio, coming to us from Baltimore, Maryland. We got a lot of things to discuss today as we continue the Wake Up Call conversation. Here we are exactly a week from the NFL draft, and we are fully into NIL and the transfer portal, and nobody knows the rules yet. So with that being said, Chris, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good morning. How are you?
Doing well, man. So we're going to start in college here. We'll take a break from some of the NFL stuff that we've been talking about this morning. We'll spin back around to it. But name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal. Broad paintbrush. What are your thoughts on it so far now that we're more than a year in?
Well, there's no rules for it. I know you could have any team could go after any college could go after anybody. And like you hear a lot of coaches, complain about the other coach and tampering and all this stuff. Maybe they need to do some, try to find what rules and regulations to do it. But until somebody figures out what's right and what's wrong, you're just going to have people grab things from different teams, different colleges. And now, like we saw in college basketball this year, everybody seemed like they're on the equal playing field. And then as soon as the tournament's over, the transfer portal opened up, and I think Miami lost a couple players already, and
UConn did after winning a championship.
Yeah, and then UConn, lost one of the transferred to one of the players from UConn transferred to Rick Pitino at St. John's now. So it's like, all right. I was like, what about loyalty? If you win a title, you should stay there for one more year, or and stay with your teammates.
Yeah, what I don't understand is in the world of the teams that make it to the championship game, let alone, if you make it to the Final Four, you make it to the championship, you win the championship. I would think if you're either staying in UConn or going to the NBA. There's no going to another team. That doesn't make sense to me. And then when you look at FAU, and you look at San Diego State and Miami, to me too, when you look at those schools, you say, okay, well, shouldn't those teams be sticking around? Shouldn't those teams be hanging on here? I mean, I don't know how you don't stay together when you come down the pipe and you're with Miami, with UConn, FAU, or San Diego State this year, because you've already proven you can get either almost to the promised land or to the promised land. So when the Final Four has guys in the transfer portal, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense either. It's like these schools are like, they would probably, if these players transfer in different schools, this school, like let's say FAU, they will never make it back there. And then everybody will think like, what happened to FAU? Oh, a couple of years ago they had these players and they went off to the NBA, or they transferred a couple of their good players transferred to, let's say, Duke or Kentucky or something like that, and it ruins programs. And I feel like, to me, it's like, they should have a rule like, maybe stay at a school for 2 years. And I understand a lot of these players and college students don't get paid in college. They need money and they need food and all that stuff. But I understand that because they're on scholarship, and sometimes during the summer they don't have jobs. They might have jobs, but it's just, to me, it's I think if you go to school at a school that recruited you, I think you should be there for 4 years, not a year and a half or a year and you go to another school and another school. And it makes you look like there's something wrong with you.
Well, and the thing is, where's the loyalty? Where's the connection? And I know that the argument is with the coaches, right? A coach can sign a deal and leave. I go back to college football, and I go back to being in Rhode Island at the American Athletic kickoff a few years back, and there were 3 coaches that had all signed extensions. So they were all there. They had all signed extensions either by December or around December of that year. Every single one of them was gone. Wow. And so to see something like that, say, okay, well, this coach signed on for another 3, this coach signed another 4, and then not even a month later, they're on a different team, where a student athlete can have the argument of saying, well, why do we have to have loyalty or respect for the program when the coaches don't have loyalty or respect for us? And I get that argument, but 2 wrongs don't make a right. And if coaches are just willy-nilly going all over the place after giving their words, and so are players. The thing about the transfer portal is it keeps getting worse. And now what we're seeing with UConn especially is it has nothing to do with if a team is good. It has nothing to do if a team is together, if the coach is good. At the end of the day, NIL, especially in a situation where you're leaving a team that made to the Final Four, the championship, or won a championship, you start to think in your head and say, okay, are we doing this for basketball? Are we doing this for money? Because if you just won a championship and now you're in the transfer portal, is it because somebody offered you $800,000 instead of $700,000? So NIL to me, I think, is rearing its ugly head even more so. And I would like to say, and maybe it's not 100%, probably not 100%. What is 100%? But there has to be a certain percentage of guys that are leaving good teams, not because the team isn't going to be good this year, but because the money's better somewhere else.
Right, and I understand that, and like a good example, Jordan Harkins, the guy down here in Maryland who played at UConn, he's going to the NBA draft. Okay, you're the player of the year, player of the tournament. Okay, but he's only 19 years old. How old is that kid? 19, 20? Yeah. People in the NBA are going to chew him up like a they've never seen. They love little kids, in the NBA. He's going to find out it's going to be tough that. He's not going to be the star player on his team. He's going to be a bench player or a six-man or somebody down in the G League. And is it worth, giving up your eligibility to go to the NBA draft if you just won a title? Stay with UConn and see what you can do, and boost up your status, your draft status. If you play better next year, because this year I was looking at the stats, he didn't really, except for the tournament, he had a couple good games. Yeah, he wasn't that great. Yeah, but I think a lot of them have a lot of family influences. Their family and friends give them bad advice and tell them, "Hey, you should go to the NBA. You just tore up the NCAA tournament. You're going to be great." And they get this big head thinking that I'm going to make millions of dollars. Yeah, you're going to make your millions. Yeah, but do you want to play in the G League, or do you want to go play or have time in college and play against more good top competition?
Yeah, we look at the transfer portal right now. As of this moment in college basketball, there's over 1,000 names. There's over 240 that have committed. 7 have withdrawn their name. And I'm looking at one guy here that I have circled, Quincy Guerrier. He went to the NBA Draft Combine to check his value to the NBA when he was still at Syracuse. Then he did something I had never seen before of a player at Syracuse. Put his name in the NBA draft, didn't hire an agent. They either go to the NBA or they come back to the school they're at. Well, he didn't go to the NBA and he transferred. So he left Syracuse to go to the NBA Combine and then committed to Oregon. Now he's transferring from Oregon after spending a couple seasons there. So we talk about these guys that just keep changing. So Quincy Guerrier, a couple of years ago, was trying for the NBA. He was a Syracuse Orange member. Now he's an Oregon Duck. Now he's going to be somewhere else. He's going to be on 3 different teams in his time in college. And I just kind of circle. I think Syracuse fans kind of go, okay, well, we missed him, but did we really miss him? Because now he's leaving Oregon.
Yeah, like you said, that transfer portal, like that kid, like he goes to Oregon. What dragged him to Oregon? What was out there so exciting that, you want to play in the Pac-12?
Yeah.
Man, the Pac-12, you have UCLA and you have, the Oregon Ducks. They didn't even make the tournament this year, did they? No. So basically you went out there for a year or what? For what? To not play primetime TV? Yeah, come on, like a lot of these kids got to look at that way. If you go to a school, you're on the East Coast like Syracuse, you're going to be on the ACC network. You're going to be on ESPN. You're probably going to be on CBS playing Georgetown, on a rivalry game. You're going to get a little bit more, people showing you on TV. But if you go out to Pac-12 out to Oregon, you're going to show you're not going to be on TV that much because Oregon is not a top 5 team or a top 25 team. You might see Oregon on ESPN Wednesday night basketball, against UCLA because UCLA is number 5 in the country.
Yeah, and now we're looking at this and where things are kind of sitting, and so even with just Syracuse alone, Chance Westry left Auburn coming to Syracuse. Jesse Edwards, who did an exclusive on my show recently here. He's going to West Virginia. We know that Joe Girard III has at least taken a visit over to LSU. Symir Torrance is in the portal. J.J. Starling left Notre Dame to come back to Central New York because he played ball here for the Baldwinsville Bees, and so he's coming to Syracuse. John Boljack. John Boljack is interesting. A couple of years ago, he entered the transfer portal and then came back to Syracuse. Now he's in the transfer portal for a second time, and allegedly this time he's leaving Syracuse. But, I mean, we got to admit, Chris, that NIL and the transfer portal were supposed to be two separate things. It was not supposed to be used as a recruiting tool. It wasn't supposed to be used to lure anybody anywhere or jockey back and forth. It wasn't supposed to be like an NBA free agent signing. But come on, without rules, regulations, and parameters, who wouldn't use name, image, and likeness to lure a kid into the transfer portal?
Yeah, well, I think the folks at the NCAA, people in Indianapolis, need to sit down and make these rules. Yes, I know this is a new thing that they're going to give, the name, likeness, and all that stuff for players to get money and get a contract. Like, let's say use football example. The guy from Clemson, the quarterback who just got transferred to Oregon. Really hard to say his last name this morning, but he got a deal with Dr. Pepper for 1 year, or 2 years. Like, wow, Dr. Pepper gave you what? A lifetime subscription to Dr. Pepper. I'll take that every day. I love Dr. Pepper. I'll take Dr. Pepper, and maybe Nicole might get a new car. With that too, probably. Maybe we could get that too from Dr. Pepper. But I feel like to me these kids are like, wow, now I can get money for college and come back and I can get paid to it. It's like, I think I heard this on the radio this week. I was coming home the other night, I think on CBS radio. I think somebody said, like, it seems like these kids are like they're in the NBA. Yeah, not really in the NBA, but you're in college, but you can make the rules of where you're going and how many contracts you're going to have.
It's crazy. If we go back to December with Clemson in college football, Dabo Swinney, national championship caliber team. When they have 10 wins in a season, it's considered a bad year. From December to now, we got Billy Wiles, who was a quarterback on the team. He's already transferred out. Or pardon me, he's looked at other. Well, no, he did transfer out officially to Southern Miss. We have Kevin Swint, who transferred out to Georgia State, who is an edge rusher on the team. We have Levante Bentley had put himself into the transfer portal. We have Dakari Collins, who was a wide receiver, is leaving Clemson for NC State. That happened back in December. Levante ended up going to Colorado. We have Kobe Pace, a running back, who left Clemson for Virginia back on December 20th. These are all the people leaving Clemson, not coming to Clemson. This is leaving Clemson, leaving Dabo Swinney and the staff. Sergio Allen, a linebacker, went to Cal. This is still all in December. Then we have in January of this year, E.J. Williams left Clemson for Indiana at wide receiver. DJ Uiagalelei left Clemson, as you were talking about, for Oregon State back on January 9th. And then we saw Paul Tyson, a quarterback, come in from Arizona State to Clemson. But most people leaving. Adenosa Rubin is leaving for Georgia Tech. So a bunch of these guys aren't just leaving. They're leaving to stay in the ACC to face Clemson. And then most recently here back in February, Fred Davis II left Clemson for UCF. So outside of a player coming in, everybody in the transfer portal, when we're looking at Clemson here, has been leaving Clemson, including their star quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei, to go across the country. I mean, if they're leaving, if you're leaving the Clemson Tigers, NIL has to have a place in this because you don't just walk out on Dabo Swinney.
No. And Dabo's a nice guy, and I feel like he's like every other coach. He's trying to, like you said, 10 wins is a bad season for him. Well, yeah, he had a problem with quarterbacking last year, and he brought in that kid who played in the Orange Bowl, and he did a good job. I think that's probably why he's going to be the starting quarterback who won the ACC championship for him. Let's see how he did. But for the other guy going out to Oregon State, you're going to Oregon State. Have fun being on TV. We don't even know who you are out there. If Oregon State's not in the top 10, in football next year, or battling for a Pac-12 title or whatever, you'll never hear his name again. Yeah. It's like it's going to be like going to the desert, and all of a sudden that kid gets drafted next year. You go, where did he go? Oh, Oregon. Like, let's use an example. Chad Bryce, Chase Bryce, the guy who was the quarterback before, what's his name? He goes to Appalachian State. I forgot he was on Appalachian State until he said, "Oh, my 4 years is done. I'm off to the NFL." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know you were there. I forgot you were there, dude." So.
Well, and then we look at, you look at Nick Saban in Alabama, and it's the same type of thing here. We look at Alabama in the new year, just the new year alone. January 8th will start. Christian Leary, wide receiver out of Florida, leaving Alabama, going to Georgia Tech. Jacoby Boykins, wide receiver from Alabama, leaving and going to a school that's not even Division I AFBS. CJ Dupree, tight end, is coming in from Maryland to Alabama. Aaron Anderson leaving Alabama for LSU at wide receiver. Then we have Javion Cohen. He's leaving Alabama for Miami on the interior offensive lineman. Tyler Harrell leaving at wide receiver, still undeclared. Damian George leaving for Florida from Alabama, and Florida didn't have a good season at offensive tackle. Trey Sanders leaving Alabama for TCU at running back. Then we have Demoy Kennedy leaving Alabama for looking at Colorado. We have Tresman Marshall, who came in from Georgia. And then we have Trayshawn Holden, who left for Oregon from Alabama at wide receiver. We have Kyrie Jackson, who left Alabama for Oregon as well at corner. Braylon Ingraham, who left as defensive lineman, came to Syracuse from Alabama. Then you have Amari Kite, who left Alabama for UCF at offensive line. And then we have Kennedy, who did in fact go to Colorado, as I mentioned before. Tommy Brockermeyer, offensive tackle, left Alabama for TCU. And recently here in April, within the last few days, April 17th and 18th and 19th, so the last 3 days leading up to this conversation, Elijah Brown has left Alabama at tight end, Jacquez Robinson is left at corner, and Traquan Fagans is left at corner. So in this week alone, they've had 3 guys leave Alabama and enter the transfer portal.
Yeah, exactly. And we were just talking about, what about a lot of these schools are done with their spring game, like Florida State just got done with their spring game, and 3 of them are already in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? You didn't like the spring game? Mike Norvell is, I'm after you talking to me about Mike Norvell last year, I actually enjoy him now. Actually, I think he's good. I think he finally turned that page, and when I saw him up at Syracuse, and when he was, he reminds me as a young Jimbo Fisher. Just you give him a question, ask him a question, he runs with it for the next 4 or 5 minutes. And that's what Jimbo used to do. And I feel confident about Florida State and the way they're going to be this year. We'll see. We're technically still the best winning streak in the nation right now, 6 in a row. A 6-game winning streak if you want to go back to last year. So we still have a long winning streak, and we'll see if we can make some noise.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Here with Christopher Heidel from HerbFM Sports Radio on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, speaking on NIL and the transfer portal and this world that continues to get more and more dicey. The thing about this, Chris, is that when you're going through recruitment, you're trying to get a school to say yes. And if you're blessed beyond measure, you get a bunch of schools to say yes. Mm-hmm. So you have an opportunity. I shouldn't say blessed beyond measure because you're blessed to get one offer. But let's say you get more offers. You get 13, you get 20, whatever it may be. When you have the opportunity to make a decision and you can choose amongst a bunch of different schools, it is a true blessing. Once you get into the transfer portal, it's like musical chairs. There's less chairs than there are people. Once that music stops, some of these kids at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old don't have a school, don't have an education, don't have a free ride, and they're starting all over again. That's the other side of the portal, is the fact of jumping in. Oh, yeah, everybody's going to want me. But what if they don't? What if they don't want you? What if they run out of time? What if you run out of time? And the situation with me in the transfer portal, with there being over 1,000 names in the transfer portal, there's such a danger zone of not getting called in. And these guys, as teenagers or in their early 20s, could be without an education, without a job, without a team, and without anything as a sophomore in college.
Well, yeah. And plus, if they run out of time in the transfer portal and nobody wants them, and like you said, they don't have a school to go to. They might go to a junior college and play for a couple of years, or maybe they'd be working at Chick-fil-A right behind near stream there, and talk to Dan during every week about life challenges on his show. But I just feel like these kids need to make. But here's the other thing: it's the parents. The parents are the number one thing. A lot of these parents want their kids to succeed. I know my parents want me to succeed when I was growing up. Your parents did the same thing. Yeah, they want the best for your kids. And I feel like a lot of these people are talking to bad people, like Asians or people who are like, oh, you keep putting yourself in the transfer portal. No, don't worry about it. You'll be picked next week. And what if nobody's picking you? Where are you going to go? I guess you're going to go back home and, you can't go back to Syracuse because you told Syracuse, there's no return policy. So you're gone, right? Yeah. You can't return. Yeah. So I guess you go to a junior college and play, junior, football, community college football for a while, or you just go back to school and get your education somewhere else and try again next year. But how many years are you going to try until somebody figure out who you are? Yes.
Well, you think about it like this too. We're finishing spring ball right now.
Mm-hmm.
In college football, 2,283 players entered the transfer portal. 1,160 of them committed somewhere, which is a little over 50%. 51 withdrew their names, which means that at the end of spring practice, we still have 1,072 kids with no home in the transfer portal heading into the summer.
That's true. Maybe the college, the colleges, the college football or this transfer portal should have like a showcase game for all these players who are stuck in the transfer portal. Instead of putting them on a computer, do like a recruitment game, and do it down in Florida or something like that. Have these kids who want to go play for a different school have all the scouts down there watching them and put it on ESPN. And see, they might get their exposure that way. Do that that'll be a cool little exhibition game. Oh, here's a guy who played at Syracuse. Okay, he's a quarterback now. All right, where he wants to go to.
Well, the thing is, this would be where I sit. Okay, for these kids in the transfer portal, you have to really not like the situation that you're in to leave the situation. I understand if you have a bad coach, if somebody lied to you, morals and values don't link up. Someone bailed on you. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. Now, I would want to see a coach come in and see what they have to say to me, but there is the reality, and I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand of the reality of a coaching staff comes in, and the coaching staff, they're nice people, and the players,
right.
They're nice people, but the coaches are like, those aren't my guys. I didn't pick them. I'm not going to make somebody else's guys look good. So you have to pay attention to those situations where it's like, well, he's a good guy, and he's a good guy, but he's not going to play that guy. He'd rather bring in another guy at that position that he can claim as his own so that he can get a better job somewhere else someday. Now, you got to have a really bad situation to leave. And you got to be real with that. By the way, Syracuse, call Quincy Guerrier. Why the frick not? You're going to play a different defense. You're going to do different things now. So in the basketball world, if I'm Adrian Autry, bare minimum, I'm going to make the phone call, say, hey, I was your position coach. I'm now the head coach. We're going to do this, this, and this different. We'd love for you to come in. We need a 4, and they really do need a 4. So it would make a lot of sense. Wouldn't that be a fun homecoming to throw that out there to the world? But I think that if you're going to enter the transfer portal, you have to truly understand what you're doing, because you don't want to be one of those kids that's left behind. And people don't talk about it. We don't talk about Kwame Brown and what he didn't do in the NBA. We talk about LeBron James. We don't talk about, okay, well, these high school guys came out and they didn't become superstars. We talk about Sean Kemp that did, Kevin Garnett that did, LeBron James that did. We talk about those players. We don't talk about the ones that didn't. And when it comes to the transfer portal, we talk about where the guys are going, but we don't talk about the guys that have nowhere to go. And that is the travesty of it all. But Chris, what do we do? What does the NCAA do? They're trying to figure themselves out, rewriting the Constitution, bringing in a new president. What do you want to see the NCAA do?
I think they need to make a restriction for this transfer portal and say, hey, you got to be at the school for more than 2 years before you get in the transfer portal, because I feel like the university's spending a lot of money on you, because that's a money issue too. These universities don't. They said they're losing money in these programs. Yeah, if you're spending a lot of money on these players to come for scholarship, and then you tell this one guy leave after a year is over, let's go to. I want to go to Michigan. Yeah, I understand if you have a family situation. That if, say, you're in Syracuse and you live in Baltimore and you have to come home because mom's sick or dad's sick or you need to come home to take care of somebody. I understand that. That should be a no-brainer. Yeah. But a lot of these kids jumping in here just because they want to wear Alabama Crimson Tide t-shirts or Duke, become a Duke player or something like that. They should have a restriction like they do in the NBA for the NBA draft for people in college. They have to be in college for 1 year, so before they go to the NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make it a 1 year deal. You have to be there for a year or two, or do like what football has. You have to be in college. You have to be in college football. You got to be in college for 3 years before you go in the NFL draft. So make it a 3 year deal, and after your third year, you can decide: do you want to transfer for your senior year, or do you want to go to the NFL? And that's what they should do. And people in Indianapolis, the folks who just got a new president there, they need to sit down and do that and talk to every conference and talk to every school and make one big rule, one big guidelines. It's not like have NCAA guidelines, but Clemson has a different guidelines. We all have to have the same equal playing field. It's like you and I, we have to pay our taxes. You got to pay your taxes by April 15th or the 18th, and it's not April 19th because you're Dan Tortora. You get a free pass because you can do it next day. So it's just they need to do something like that and tell these kids you got to stay in school for a year or two for college basketball, football for 3, and I think for baseball. For college baseball, I think it's like 2 or 3 years probably.
Yeah, and you see it with the WNBA too. You have to stay longer, kind of like college football. So the WNBA doesn't have the same rule as the NBA does. Caitlin Clark, coming back and all that, and she can't just leave and go to the WNBA. So there are parameters set in place. I do think the transfer portal with having certain windows going on. The thing that I don't like is if you're going to be in spring ball with me, and we just went through a bunch of weeks together. We just went through 4 weeks of hell together trying to get to heaven. And now you're out, right? The spring game happens and I'm out. Look at Alabama. 3 guys, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. Bang, bang, bang. Gone. And so, you're showing these guys the playbook. You're working with them. You're going through everything with them. And then they just bid you adieu. I think it's crazy. It's unfortunate. And I don't know. To me, I don't want to coach players that are going to walk out on me. Like, we're going to just finish up spring ball, let's say on Sunday, and you're going to come into my office. And they don't even have to. They don't even have to. If you go into the transfer portal, you have to tell compliance. You don't have to tell your coach. So if I'm Nick Saban and I'm coaching all these guys, one of my assistants could run into my office and say, hey, did you hear that Ba just left? And I'd be like, what? Like, yeah, check the portal. So, that's the other side of it, too, is the kids don't even have to sit face-to-face with the coach, which I think is wrong, because if you want somebody to be a positive reflection on who you are and a referral on your resume, you don't run out of the job before giving your notice. And I think, the youth of today has been taught you don't have to do anything to earn money. You could just sit at home and we'll send you a check. You don't have to go and talk to your boss when you leave. You could just run away like a coward. And so if there's no responsibility and there's free money and there's no adversity and there's no teamwork and there's no developing together, then you're building an individualistic society that doesn't care about the person standing next to them, which is why I think society in America, beyond sports, is so screwed up right now.
Yeah, I agree. And back to what we were just talking about, I think conferences like the SEC, I think they have a rule that, if you say, I think the SEC or somebody in the SEC has a rule that if you transfer, you can't transfer into any team in the SEC or the SEC East or whatever. I think I heard that last year. They should do that. Like, okay, I was like, just use Maryland as an example. Okay, you want to transfer out of Maryland, but you can't go to Penn State, you can't go to Rutgers and you can't go to Michigan. Any team that Maryland has them on your schedule for this year, you can't go. And I think they need to restrict that. But I don't think they do that anymore. I guess they just go wherever they want to go.
Yeah, no, they used to. A coach used to be able to tell. Now, the ACC had a rule that if you transferred within the ACC to another ACC school, you had to sit out 2 years, not one. Mm-hmm. And that was outright. To people now, their minds would blow up. But then a coach could go one step farther. If I'm Dino Babers and you came into my office, and this did happen with a player at Syracuse, Dino gave the kid a list. He said, you can't play you can't go to any of these ACC schools, and you can't go to any of the teams that we're playing this season. Well, it just so happens that the 2 or 3 schools that wanted this kid the most were on that list. So he ended up getting screwed over because he wasn't playing at Syracuse. He felt like he was lied to. He didn't feel like there was any honesty, and no matter how good he did in practice, he wasn't playing. So he left to better himself, and Dino gave him a list, and on that list were the schools that wanted him. So the poor kid, if he stayed, got nothing, and if he left, he got nothing, and he got totally screwed over. And he told that story on my show, Jordan Fredericks. And I feel terrible because if Jordan Fredericks is playing right now, a coach can't do that.
Yeah, I think it's terrible, but back then the coach could do whatever they wanted to do.
Coach can give you a list of 72 schools, so you can't go to any of the schools.
Yeah, you're like your employer. It's almost like your employer. They tell you, look, you can't be in this department, but we'll put you in this department because we don't want you to be, conflicting in the other department. Okay, that's fine. But a lot of these. But I think the whole thing needs to be maybe the coaches. The head coaches might need to have a final say in the transfer portal. Look at them and go, all right, kid, you want to transfer to a different school? Let me tell you my evaluation of you. Yeah. You stink. You're terrible. And if you're going to go to a new school, they're not going to play you. They have X, Y, Z, and 2 in front of you. My advice: stay here, and I will work with you, and you will probably be a starter in 2 years. But a lot of these kids want to be starters right away. And Syracuse and Florida State and all that stuff, you don't get that opportunity sometimes. You vaguely, start right away in your freshman year at Florida State if Florida State doesn't have a corner or a quarterback, that's what, to vaguely have an opportunity to start right away. But a lot of these kids want to start right away and play. Well, you got to earn it. Yeah. If you don't do well in practice and you sit at practice and you goof off and you become and excuse my French, an ass to your coach, what is the coach going to look at? The coach, like Tino Babers, who's a nice guy. If you cross him the wrong way, I think to me he looks like one of those old mafia guys. He's going to put you down and send you down to Long Island and say play down there for a while. Well, see you later.
The thing is. What we're talking about is once there's adversity, once there's somebody there to take your job, these guys have been taught to run. They've been taught to not compete. They've been told, and this goes back to something we talked about earlier this week. We live in a society that is now seeing the kids that we did this to years ago. They're now teenagers. They're now in their 20s. They're in the workforce. They're going to college. And we wonder why society's so screwed up. And it's not every kid. It's not every adult. It's not every kid. You can't blanket policy group everybody. I'm just making a statement. Right. Whoever decided that everyone gets a trophy should be put in Guantanamo Bay. And my reason is as such. When you decided to give every kid a trophy from first to 15th place, those kids have now grown up. Those kids that grew up being told, you're a champion for being here. This trophy was given to me when my team won a championship. I think it should be massive. I don't know why they skimped on this little baby. But this is a champion.
I got the same thing.
So this is the Pro League champion trophy. And then I received a paper that had the fact that I was the MVP of the playoffs. So I got this and I got the MVP. Nobody else was MVP of the playoffs. Only one team won the championship trophy. That's what happened when I was 14, 15 years old. We won the championship. I won the MVP. There wasn't 9 MVPs. There wasn't the guy picking his nose in the corner. looking at his shoe who got MVP as well. I got MVP because, number one, I was on the championship team, and number two, I kicked ass at shooting. That's what I did. I had my best shooting days. My shot that I had worked on forever that I knew I had, it fell. And it fell when it needed to. It fell inside. It fell outside. So we won a championship.
Same thing when I was a kid growing up. My brother got a huge trophy when he won the Little League Baseball. And I was like, oh, I would love to win a championship. So I finally won one. I'm like, I'm going to get the same trophy. I get the same thing you have, a little tiny little thing. I'm like, really? I was like, I should be getting this big trophy like my brother did. Well, I carried that trophy around the whole summer like it was like the Lord Stanley Cup. I brought it to the beach. I brought it to on vacation. It's like because I thought it was cool when you're a kid. You're like, wow, I won a title. Yeah. This is awesome.
All my titles are right here. So there's my championship trophy. And there's my 3 fantasy football championship trophies.
I don't even get one for fantasy football.
Yeah, so I have 3 fantasy football championship trophies. And those are there because I won a championship. I don't have second place trophies here. I don't have 5th place. I don't have hey, thanks for being here trophies. But to get back to my point, the society that we created, the kids that got a trophy for showing up, the blue ribbon that used to mean first place, but now there's a blue ribbon for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 8th, 12th, 17th, because you bred a group of people, because you bred society in America to be the same from 1st to 15th. Those kids grew up, they're playing college ball, and you tell that kid he has to compete, and you tell him he's not the best, and you say that there's 5 other quarterbacks looking for his job, he turns, he runs, and he's never there again. Kid's fast as hell out of the building. And the head coach is sitting there going, that kid never ran a 40 like that, but this is how fast he ran out of my building. People are running from adversity. They're running from competition. They're running from anybody testing their mettle because they were brought up in a society where everybody got a trophy for doing nothing. And that's ridiculous. Right. But this is what you get. This is exactly what you get. You see society today, stop giving people trophies. There's not 12 CEOs in a company. There's one. Okay? Yeah. I can't walk up to Disney right now and tell Disney, I think I'm CEO. Why? Because I feel like I am. And if I feel like I am, then I am. And then Disney goes, you're right. You are the CEO. Here's your check. Go sit on your throne, sire. What would you like Mickey to do today? I mean, that's not how life works. You have to work for what you have. And because society's been told you don't have to do anything to earn anything, that's why these kids are in the that's not all of them, but that's why some of the kids are not all of them, but that's why some of the kids are in the transfer portal, and that's why some of the kids don't know how to fight. Justin Fields coming to Ohio State, what did Tate Martell do? He ran. And what happened in Miami? He didn't play. So, I mean, he was ousted by Van Dyke. The reality of it all is you can't run from responsibility and adversity your entire life unless you decide to run until you die.
Yeah.
And that's where we are as a society right now.
Yeah. I just love your Disney comment. That's a different story for another day down there, Yeah. I'm just glad Disney's doing whatever to that governor down there and showing him like, hey, let's go mess with us. Go ahead. Have a great day. Yeah. That's another story for another day. We'll have that another time.
But
anyway,
I do want to end with Lamar Jackson. You're in Baltimore. Allegedly, this man's been offered at least $200 million, and allegedly he has said no. What is going on with Lamar Jackson? Because if I'm getting offered 4 or 5 years, 200 whatever million, I'm taking it. Why is this such a weird strain? Why is this situation taking so long? I thought that they built the whole team around Lamar. I thought Lamar knew that. I thought Lamar's been their, golden child and their franchise quarterback and the face of the franchise right now. And I thought they liked the guy. So what is going on in Baltimore?
We haven't heard from him since the spring meetings, the NFL owners meetings. And he came out like 2 weeks ago and say, I want to be traded as of March 2nd. And Baltimore, the media and Eric DeCosta, at these press conferences don't want to talk about it. They have told the media around here, no more comments about it. We're not going to comment about, Lamar Jackson. Then you go out and get Odell Beckham. You go out and get a kid from the Jets yesterday.
Yeah.
You get Aguilar, the guy from the Patriots, who were pretty good with the Eagles a couple years ago. Well, he hasn't been that way for the last couple of years. Is that influenced by Lamar? It is. Eric DeCosta goes, "What do you want? Do you want this guy, this guy, this guy? Are you going to come back?" I'm pretty sure after the Jalen Hurts deal that we saw on Monday afternoon, and I talked about on my program, I feel like I had the Yahoo sports writer on for Yahoo Sports. There was an NFL writer I found. I feel like Lamar Jackson's out of here, and nobody's going to talk about it until next week. Like, good example, Dan. Last year with Hollywood Brown, we didn't know there was a trade already in place until what? Draft night. Yeah, we didn't know about it. It was a shocker. We were there, and Nicole and I went to the Ravens draft party. We're going to do that again next week down at the stadium. And it was like when Hollywood Brown got traded, it was completely like they lost your child. Everyone was like, he actually went to Arizona.
Yeah,
and everyone's like, yeah. I feel like the Ravens have some deal in place that they're not going to say anything because they're going to keep it in house. They're not going to say anything until draft night. That some team, like I heard yesterday on talk radio down here, let's say if you're the Texans, okay, all right, you're owner in football. How about you give the Ravens the second pick and the 12th pick, and how many other draft picks you got, and get Lamar Jackson. And if you're the Ravens, if you pick number 2, you get an opportunity to get a nice, good, brand new quarterback that you could have him start. Or you put him on the bench and you go and trade for a Tannehill or something like that, or somebody who is a veteran quarterback, or and go get him, and then and have that guy as your starting quarterback, like a Steve McNair was years ago for the Ravens. Some veteran who knows John Harbaugh, or you stick with Hundley as your quarterback, and have this kid as the backup behind you. And give Hundley an opportunity. Hundley's been in the system for 3 years. He's been practicing, and he's been playing more preseason games than Lamar Jackson is. So he knows what the offense is. He just had last year. He was thrown in right away, and he had a couple good games, except for the trying to dive over the center in that playoff game to try to get the touchdown and pop down, and the guy ran it all the way back for the Bengals. But that looked like a Mario brother, thing that didn't mean for that. But I just feel like I truly think there's something going on here in Baltimore, and nobody's going to say anything because they don't want to leak it out. And the Ravens don't leak out information like that, like most other teams do. They keep everything in house. And I'm pretty sure by this time next Friday, Friday morning, we'll all get to go to work. The Ravens will have a new quarterback, and Lamar Jackson will probably be gone to Texas, to the Texans, or send it out to Detroit. You're going to be a Lions quarterback, or somebody's going to step up now until next Thursday and say, look, we can do something for you, and they got to get it done.
Yeah, and Lamar has commented. He said within the past hour that he was mad and sad about the John Wick 4 ending. He talked about a movie.
Thanks, Lamar. What are you becoming, the movie critic?
Everybody's like, oh, Lamar tweeted. What did he tweet? John Wick 4, anger, sadness. And I'm like, okay. I think now he's just toying with people. Who do you think, what situation do you think gets figured out faster, Aaron Rodgers or Lamar Jackson?
I think Aaron Rodgers already figured out. I think the Jets and Packers are waiting for, probably something better, because you can't bring, Aaron Rodgers back to Green Bay, because if you do, what about, Love, the quarterback? He wants to be traded. You tell this one guy, oh, you're going to be the starting quarterback this year, but hold on a second, our quarterback who got us to 2 Super Bowls is coming back for one more year. You're going to be back on the bench, and you're going to be like, really? I should be starting. I've been sitting here for 4 years, watching him and, helping him out, a couple times when he was injured. And, I feel like the Jets are just waiting for whatever the Packers want, because it got to be done. And that's going to be another one for draft night. Is the Packers going to say something like, hey, we got, we're trading Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, or Or is Aaron Rodgers going to be like Brett Favre and it's like, I'm not playing for the Packers, and then show up on the Jets practice field like 4 days later going, hey, I'm a Jet. How you doing? Because the Jets are still trying to find that replacement for number 12, and that's back in 1969. You got to find somebody. Yeah,
and I think what it comes down to ultimately is Aaron could screw everybody. And that's what it really, I mean, you bring in the players that you bring in for the Jets, you start to build this team around, but he's not there yet. And is this all a draft night? Is this all after, like you said, after Thursday night, we wake up Friday morning, and is that it? That we find out after Thursday night, whatever happens with Aaron is done, Lamar's set, we're good to go. Are we just waiting until a week from today on April 27th to find out the information that is just sitting and waiting? Because if I'm the Jets and Aaron does not come to me clearly and sign on the dotted line, if he does not do that for me within the next couple days, then and within the days of the draft, I would say, if he doesn't sign with me by midnight on April 29th, I hope that the Jets drafted a quarterback. In the second round, or in the second day, rounds 2 and 3, on Friday, I hope that the Jets draft a quarterback at least in the third round. If not, I hope they definitely do in day 3. If Aaron Rodgers is not a Jet by Friday or Saturday, they need to have an insurance policy because the Zach Wilson thing hasn't been working. And they need to figure that out.
A good example. Are you your insurance policy? Will you pick up the phone and call Baltimore and say, Lamar, would you like to come to the Meadowlands? Make a deal with the Ravens, and say, hey, we'll take Lamar Jackson, and you could take Zach Wilson. Will the Ravens have Zach Wilson on the team? Zach Wilson needs to get out of New York. That's the only problem. New York is too hard for kids who, if you don't know, and you understand, in New York City, in New York sports, and I'm from New York too.
Yeah.
If they love you if you play well. They want, if your team is doing well, they will love you to death. They will they want to buy you a sandwich. They want to buy you a train ticket. They'll buy you your own hotel for the day. But if you stink and you're terrible, they'll ride you out of the city. Yeah. They'll just hop on. The media down there is cruel. They don't. It's like in baseball. You could go 4 for 4 and hit 2 home runs, and you're like the talk of the town for the day. And then all of a sudden the next day, and you go on a 12-game slump, and you're batting .117, and you're in. Everybody in the media is going to ask you like, what's going on? They'll just tear you to shreds. And I think Zach Wilson is not used to that because Zach Wilson's a Alabama quarterback, right? And down there, he was the man.
Oh, he was
not the
BYU.
He's not the man. Oh, BYU. Yeah. Okay, so he was in BYU. He was the man in BYU. He was the quarterback. He was the guy you could probably go to a supermarket and get free stuff. Because he's the quarterback. You're in New York. They don't care if you're the Jets quarterback. You got to succeed, and that's the bottom line. And if you don't succeed, they're going to run you out of town. You're not the man. Yeah.
The Baltimore Ravens are not set up right now to take a Zach Wilson at all, and that's because you built the team around a running quarterback. So if you built the team around a running quarterback, you got to go find one. So if you're Baltimore and you look at the draft right now, if you're the Baltimore Ravens, you put yourself in a situation where now you start having conversations with teams that can help you get up the draft board. And with some of those teams, you go and look at this and say, okay, well, the Ravens are going to be picking. In this year's draft, the Ravens currently have the 22nd pick. So we got the 22nd pick in the draft right now, and you look at the teams that are up toward the top. Houston, which is a viable option to talk about Lamar. Indianapolis at 4. Houston's at 2. Arizona, no, because they're still trying to figure that out. Seattle's got what they got. Detroit's got what they got. Vegas just brought in Jimmy G. Atlanta's got my guy Desmond Ridder. Chicago's got Justin Fields, and they already traded out from the number 1 pick. Philadelphia's got Hurts. That's your top 10. So if you're Baltimore, you can talk to Houston and you can talk to Indy. And if you talk to Houston and Indy, then maybe that's only if you're really sold on Anthony Richardson. Because you need to find a quarterback who's going to allow you to have a similar... Now, Anthony Richardson can throw that ball down the field. His accuracy, but he can throw that ball down the field.
Right.
So those are the teams you're talking to, Houston and Indianapolis, if you're going to trade up.
Mm-hmm.
So will we see something on draft night? Because this is the thing with the Jets. The Jets don't have that capital. The Jets don't have a place to do that with Baltimore. They're not drafting ahead of Baltimore to even have that conversation. But Houston and Indianapolis, they can have that conversation with the Baltimore Ravens. And is that what we see on draft night? Do we see the number 2 pick and then Roger Goodell stops and says, there has been a trade?
Mm-hmm.
The Baltimore Ravens have traded up to the number 2 overall pick. And for the trade, the Houston Texans will receive Lamar Jackson, this pick, and this pick. So, that's kind of what I'm looking at is those first 4 picks are going to be really interesting because will there be a trade? Will Baltimore move Lamar on draft night? But I'm telling the Jets right now, you better pick a quarterback within the 2nd to 4th round because I do not want you to be in a situation where Aaron changes his mind like he changes his girlfriend's. And we don't know where he's at.
And if you're the Ravens, you're literally gutted that entire team. They got rid of Campbell, Macarius Campbell, that my girlfriend liked really much. It was a great Raven. He got rid of Clark. He traded Clark to the Jets.
Yeah.
He got rid of somebody else, just left. Marcus Peters is a free agent. He's gone, or he's going whatever he's doing. So the Ravens basically, you're gutting the whole team for what reason? Trying to save money?
Yeah.
Because you want to tell Lamar Jackson, we have the money. And if you do that, you're going to set your team back by a couple of years because you got to pay your quarterback X amount of dollars. He's not Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Well, the only way Joe Flacco got that big contract was he gambled on himself, and they got hot in the postseason.
Yeah.
And Flacco had the best postseason numbers than anybody, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions for that entire playoffs. And Joe Flacco's right now laughing at the bank because he made his money. He could buy a franchise now if he wants to, and he loves being up in New York with the Jets, because he's closer to home. He's home with his kids. He has 6 kids, and hey, if he's a backup or a third string quarterback, he's still in the NFL, but he made his money.
Yeah.
He's good.
Strike while the iron's hot. That's what you got to do. You bank on yourself. You do what you need to do. What I think, and I said this before you came on, Chris, is I think what we're dealing with Lamar Jackson could be some negotiation fatigue. And that is just 2 sides sitting at a table in a coffee shop, just kind of getting to the point where you're dozing off. You're looking at your phone. You're getting to that point in the conversation where you're starting to lose the other side.
Right.
And I feel like we're in this negotiation fatigue right now where maybe he didn't take the best deal. Maybe they don't want to do it. Maybe he's thinking, why didn't I do it? Maybe they're thinking, why did we offer that? So we're in a position right now where I think both of these teams, or both of these sides with Lamar and the Ravens, this could be some fatigue. There could be an exhaustion of time, money, energy spent. People just driving to the thing is, if you got to bring the GM and the president, you got to bring them in to the office for the 4th meeting with Lamar in like 6 months. When you pull in that time, you're sitting there, you're on the phone going, hey, if this, doesn't happen now, let's just get rid. I can't deal with this crap anymore. I can't do it.
Right.
You don't want to keep dealing with it. Nobody wants to go through the definition of insanity and do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If I'm the Ravens right now and I'm sitting across from Lamar, I'm like, dude, if you don't want to be here, just say you don't want to be here. Because I don't want to draw up another plan, waste more paper, and talk to you about this just to go through an hour and 15 minutes of watching you sit there going, no. I don't want to do that. And I feel like right now, both sides are probably fatigued. So unless they have a deal in place to move him around, they're going to have to do something to make this work because we don't know. It's all alleged, right? We don't know exactly what he was offered. But if that man was offered $200 million guaranteed money and he didn't take it, he's stupid. At that point, he's stupid.
Hey, I'll take $200 million.
I think anybody would, especially somebody who's been injured.
Oh yeah. Oh hey, and that's the other thing is if you're the Ravens, are you gonna like spend $200 million on a quarterback that hasn't played for 12 games and doesn't show up at the end of the season and help your team out? Even if he's injured.
Yeah.
Like good example. Where was he for the playoff game? Oh, he was home because he was sick. No, if you're a franchise quarterback, you travel with the team. If you have to be in the press box somewhere with a headset on and listen to the plays coming into your headset and talking to your backup quarterback Hundley and say, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to be there to show like you actually care about the organization. If you're off and feeling, you have an injury and you're off to Walt Disney World and riding, Spaceship Earth every 5 minutes and your team's playing in a playoff game, that's not committed to your franchise. Yeah. That's not a commitment. That to me is like, you just care about yourself, and you don't give it two darns about anybody else. And if I'm Steve Rashani, do I want to pay that money to that guy? Is he going to have the same? Are we going to have year 3 of Lamar Jackson getting hurt in week 6 or week 7 after a bye game, and like you don't see him for the rest of the year because he's like off doing something else? And Baltimore, I think Baltimore is tired of it. I think they want a quarterback that's there every day, and they want, yes, he won the MVP his first year as a starter, because everybody didn't know who Lamar Jackson was, and he tore up now the NFL knows who Lamar Jackson is, and he needs to reinvent himself. Does he have to be a pocket quarterback? Maybe. Does he want to run? Yeah, but if you see Michael Vick over time, Michael Vick stayed in the pocket more because he realized, if he's a running quarterback, he's going to get clobbered.
Michael Vick also had an arm that people don't give him credit for. Right.
And I just feel like, to me, I think Lamar is, and if Lamar is watching your program instead of tweeting about John Wick 4, or what kind of sandwich he had at the local Chick-fil-A down there, just tell the city of Baltimore the truth. Just say, hey, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I need to go home. Thank you, Baltimore, for 4 or 5 years of glory years. We had a great time together, but I got to move on because there's something I don't like in the and it could be also, it's probably not the ownership. It could be Harbs. Maybe there's something wrong with him and John. Maybe there's something that nobody knows about. Maybe they're quarreling and nobody wants to say anything.
Right.
Because your quarterback has to be the leader of that coach.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot in the NFL. And if you have a problem with your quarterback, your starting quarterback, that's why in New England Tom Brady was okay. Because Nick Belichick, understand him. So.
Yeah. I mean, what it comes down to is if we finish the draft next week, Saturday comes and goes, and I wake up Sunday morning on April 30th, ready for my vacation. I better know where Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson are going. And if I go down to Florida and I see those bros down there having a little vacation party, we're going to do a show. We're going to talk about some things. I'm going to say, Aaron, you got 50 bones a year from Green Bay, and you're under contract for the next couple seasons. Nobody forgot you were a Packer except for you. And Lamar, let me represent you, bro. I'll take 5% of this. But let's just figure this out. I'll take 2%. That's 2%. Let's do it. Let's put it all together. Let's say, you know what? I'm going to figure brass tags of it. 2% of $200 million is going to give me $4 million. So I will take that money to the bank. But I hope that on April 30th, when I got my Disney ears on and I'm ready to party, that these guys have made up their mind. If they haven't made up their mind, they don't want to hear me on Monday. They don't want to hear from that. So They don't want to hear my thoughts because I'm going to be tweeting not about John Wick. I'm going to be tweeting about the ending of the draft not being something that I liked. So Figure it out. Do what you need to do. Jets, draft a quarterback. Mark my words, you won't be sorry. Draft a quarterback. Don't have to do it in the first. Draft a quarterback in the third round. Third round, draft yourself a quarterback. Maybe Hendon Hooker if he falls. Let's see. But for the Baltimore Ravens, guys, Figure this out. You're either dating or you're not dating. Stop doing this thing where it's like, I don't really want to date him. I'm not attracted to him anymore, but I don't want to sleep alone. Stop. Okay? Sometimes you need to sleep alone and watch Ted Lasso. I promise you. It's good. It's good. When you got your dog in the house and you're watching Ted Lasso and I don't have anybody sleeping next to me driving me nuts, it's a good day. So you don't just sleep next to a body. You got to sleep next to something that works, something you appreciate, a good relationship. I have never been more proud to look at the other pillow and be like, oh, there ain't nobody there bothering me at all? So just, you know what? Ted Lasso, Lily, and myself, happy as can be. So figure it out, Lamar. You either tell the Ravens that you're watching Ted Lasso by yourself, or when you get in bed with them, you make sure you kiss them goodnight. That's how I feel.
Right. Exactly. Let's end it on there. That sounds like a good idea.
What'd you say?
I think that's a good topic to end right there. Like we're done. That's the dating service. Yeah.
We're done with that.
Yeah.
And it's a shameless plug for Ted Lasso, which I think is Jason Sudeikis' best work of his career. So with that being said, Chris Heidel, HerbFM Sports Radio. Chris, let them know how they can find you.
Well, you can find us on YouTube. You just type in HerbFM Sports Radio on YouTube. We have our show. We actually moved our show to Mondays now until the end of the college baseball season because a lot of minor league teams are playing. They're off on minor league baseball. They're off on Mondays. So basically you can talk to coaches on Mondays instead of Tuesdays because in minor league baseball now they play a 6-game series. Remember that? We never had 6-game series when we were kids watching minor league baseball. And college baseball is up and running. And we're going to be on until, middle of after college baseball is over. And then college football kicks off again. With all these media days, so we're going to figure out where we're going to go. And, ACC has 3 days this year instead of 2. The Big Ten has 2. So, it's going to be fun. You can also visit our website. It's HerbFM Radio, HerbFMSportsRadio.weebly.com. And you'll see, I'm working on updating that. It's a little hard when you're trying to run everything. So, trying to update everything on the website, the best I can. Yeah. But, so our show is now Monday nights next week, next Monday, April 24th at 7:30. And we're working on trying to get some cool people. We might be getting somebody Dan. We might be getting Randy Etzel on because he, they're doing this charity golf tournament down at the Chick-fil-A people down in, and he won the championship last year. Yeah. So I might have your good old friend Randy Etzel on the program. So that's going to be, hopefully we'll figure that out today or this week. But hey, I haven't talked to Randy since he was in Maryland. And the last time I talked to him about a penalty that he didn't want to challenge, it ended up in the newspaper. So it's going to be very, very interesting having a good conversation with him about that, Yeah. But so we're going to be on next Monday night, 7:30. And we'll do everything from we do college football, we talk about college baseball. We throw in the professional bowlers tour. So we got a couple bowlers coming on next week. So we know.
That's awesome. Yeah. Looking forward to that coming up this Monday, April 24th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can watch it on YouTube. Search HerbFM Sports Radio. Find Chris Heidel and the team. Appreciate you. Appreciate the team. Appreciate you guys having me on and giving me some more time to talk about this NCAA tournament this season, and always a great time to have you and the gentlemen, all share the room together. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Yeah, we'll get you on after your vacation and have fun at Epcot and say hello to the big golf ball for me. Yeah.
Well, I definitely will. I'll see if Randy can hit that one. So
yeah, that works. All right, buddy. Have a great day, dude.
All right, take care, Chris.
I see you.
See ya. That coming from Chris Heidel one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets. Take it now and wrap up after this.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
This is is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. I hope you're having yourselves a wonderful day today, and I can't thank you enough for being with us as we underpromise, overdeliver once again. You know, we say we're a 2-hour show, but we always go well beyond 2 hours. I want to thank you for being with us on Facebook.com and YouTube.com, both /WakeUpCallDT. And on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, once we go live, we jump into the archive on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Thank you to our incredible partners, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, 317 at Montgomery, where we will be filming an all-new Downtown with Dan coming up this week. Can't wait to show that to you exclusively at 317 at Montgomery Street. The name of the location is the name of the restaurant in downtown Syracuse, and our Downtown with Dan segment is exclusive to 317 because their food is fantastic and they deserve the spotlight. PB&J's Lunchbox, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Great Lakes Honda City, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Chick-fil-A Watertown, Chick-fil-A Clay, Avicoli's, Pizza Man, Mother's Cupboard. And Mother's Cupboard, the proud home of the exclusive Wake Up Call breakfast sandwich, available every day, 7 days a week, 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., the whole time that they're open, 3709 James Street in Syracuse. Go and get the Cuse McMother. The Cuse McMother is my sandwich, available to you on the menu daily only at Mother's Cupboard. Bacon, egg, and cheese served on French toast. And that French toast, you could pick it up and eat it like a sandwich, or you could cut it up and have it with some syrup. Get your Cuse McMother today. The Wake Up Call Dan Tortora special that you can go out and get. I am so thankful and so honored to have my own sandwich at a Syracuse staple, which is Mother's Cupboard. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Way Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. The Dolphins coming to you here on Wake Up Call, and so thankful to have them every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. First and third Wednesday of each month, AD and DT. Second and fourth Wednesday, the Dolphin Dive, diving into stories of student-athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. You can hang out with your Dolphins 24/7 on our Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com and by subscribing to our YouTube channel and finding all of our Lemoyne content at youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. For more information on your Dolphins, go to LemoyneDolphins.com. The Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse Bobcats coming to you as exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Our Bobcat Buzz comes to you every single month with student athletes and coaches, and having the opportunity to tell the stories of the inaugural season of the baseball program this season, and of course men's and women's basketball, men's and women's soccer. Don't miss a moment of all of our Bobcat Buzz by going to the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com, as well as by subscribing to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and searching Bobcat Buzz. For more information on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With that being said, getting ready for Friday's broadcast. Can't wait to bring that to you. An all-new Downtown with Dan at 317 at Montgomery Street is going to be airing this week, so make sure you tune in for that. Check out all of our social media for all of the great things we got to do, including all of our baseball content as Lemoyne celebrated 75 years of baseball and retired the jersey of Eric Holstein. God bless him in heaven. And I got to talk to his brother Bart, who also played on the team, and the retired number 24 for Dick Rockwell, who I also got to speak with, the longtime coach and athletics director at Lemoyne College. Check out all of that content, including my conversation with Liz Bevel of the women's lacrosse team at Lemoyne on the 30th anniversary of the Lemoyne women's lacrosse team. They got a victory over Adelphi in their 30th contest against Adelphi. So pretty cool history. And Liz Bevel, the head coach, is 30 years old. So 30 years old, 30th time against Adelphi in the 30-year anniversary, getting a victory, and we had a conversation. And you can also check that out on all of our social media. And you could check out all of our Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse content, including the baseball team from last week. And I'm going to be airing that as its own individual special, so you can track that on all of our social media and our YouTube channel as well, coming up soon. Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, the Twitter at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. In the meantime, thank you to Papa Joe. Thank you to Chris Heidel. Awesome conversation. Great stuff. And we were one of the top trending things on Twitter in speaking about Lamar Jackson this morning, so that's pretty cool too. Hope to talk with you all soon. From the Ma and Pa's wonderful list of topics for the day, what's poppin'? We thank Ma and Pa's, the CNY capital, in my opinion, the national capital of fantastic snacks. So if you're going to the CNY snack capital, you're going to Ma and Pa's at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. If you're out of town, you're going to maandpazpopcorn.com. From the Cafe Kubal Studios, perfect timing, once again, as God always does. From the Cafe Kubal Studios, have a fantastic day. God bless. No stress.